Chapter 2070. Good wine sank to the bottom of the urn. The moment he saw this perfect dark ball, Lin Feng knew that his 1,100 years of persistence had not been in vain. Even the origin of the Holy Land paled in comparison. The origin of the Holy Land, in terms of treasure effects, should be at the level of a top-tier excellent true treasure, on the same level as the Wings of Warmth. However, this dark ball was definitely at the level of a pinnacle true treasure. Although he did not know its true effects, the aura it emitted had completely surpassed the origin of the Holy Land. Regardless of shape, energy, aura, or structure, it was clearly different. Pa! Lin Feng stretched out his hand and touched the black ball of light. There was no rejection. The dark demonic patterns were exquisite, forming a perfect resonance with the dark ball. Streaks of extremely pure bloodline energy gushed out of the dark ball and seeped into the dark demonic patterns. Strand by strand, strand by strand. So comfortable. Lin Feng felt like he was in a dark ocean. It was boundless. The dark ball was like a mother, nurturing every child. The dark demonic patterns were like blooming flowers, with fine patterns appearing like willow branches. Each pattern had a unique meaning, and each secret pattern contained a powerful force, showing the great Tao of darkness. Too powerful. It was different from being in the blood swamp. In the blood swamp, the influx of bloodline energy was like sucking with a straw. Now, it was pouring in like an avalanche. The more the body could accept, the more powerful the bloodline energy was. Endless, boundless power. It's worth it. Lin Feng was completely immersed in this wonderful feeling. The improvement of bloodline was the most fundamental. It was a leap in the level of life, an enhancement of the talent of darkness. It improved basic strength from all aspects, increasing one's own ability level by level. Not to mention other things, just the understanding of the great Tao of darkness would transform with the improvement of bloodline. The most direct was the connection of 100,000 origins. The level was increasing. It was like a child reading a book and an adult reading a book. The comprehension ability was much different. In the deepest part of the blood swamp lair, the ground was littered with corpses, all of which belonged to Blood Python Beast King. It was a majestic palace with a majestic statue of the Blood Python Beast King. None of the beasts guarding the perimeter were Blood Python Beast Commanders, only Blood Python Beast Lords. Because this was the Blood Mane Royal Palace. The two Blood-Maned Beast King's palace ruled over all the Blood-Maned beasts. Ordinary experts of the Origin Awakened continent could not even enter the depths of the Blood Mane lair, let alone the Blood Mane Royal Palace. However, this was not a problem for the Destiny race, who had a thorough understanding of the Blood Mane lair. Although the Blood Maned lair was large, the Destiny race had already drawn 90% of the map. Although he had never entered the remaining 10%, he had a rough idea. The 3 forbidden areas of the Blood Mantis lair. The sovereign blood-sucking horn must be hidden in one of the 3 great forbidden lands. We haven't found the forbidden Black Land and the forbidden Wild Land, and we can't enter the deepest part of the forbidden pool. The only possibility is the blood-devouring royal palace. The Grand Magispriest's heavenly eye was pale white, and the 9 forks in his eyes were frightening. Boundless power was unleashed, slaughtering a group of blood-maned beast kings. Today, I forced my way into the Blood Mane Royal Palace. The 2 blood-maned beast king will soon know. Grand Magispriest's face was solemn as he shuttled through the royal palace. There must be a secret passage between the Blood Mane lair and the Meteor Chaos Land. They will soon arrive. Whether or not we can find the sovereign blood-sucking horn, we must leave this place immediately. There are still a few scapegoats in the Blood Mane lair. Let these idiots bear the wrath of the Blood-Maned Beast King. The sovereign blood-sucking horn. Grand Magispriest's aura was majestic as he forced his way into the Blood Mane Royal Palace, searching for the treasures within. Here. No, there are only outstanding true treasures. No, these are fruits of darkness. Damn it, Where is the sovereign blood-sucking horn? Grand Magisprius' goal was the sovereign blood-sucking horn. He didn't care about the other treasures at all, including those outstanding cardinal treasures. Over countless epochs, the Destiny race had accumulated countless treasures. Although outstanding cardinal treasures were top class in Origin Awakened continent, they were of little value to the Destiny race. They had too many treasures. There's a passage here. Alright. Grand Magisprius didn't hesitate as he entered. Time passed slowly. Lin Feng was immersed in the boundless energy of the black ball of light, almost forgetting about time. Bloodline strengthening, comprehending 100,000 origin realms. Time passed like the tide, quickly passing. This continued until the arrival of a singularity. Breakthrough, crossing the singularity. His body and mind were in high spirits as the dark demonic pattern shone with incomparable light. The complex patterns on the surface of his body had already completely covered the light demonic pattern. It was filled with absolute dominance. This was the foundation of darkness. Frenzied, ruthless, unrestrained. Under this powerful surge of energy, the light demonic pattern and the black whirlpool had already fallen into a deep slumber. Even if they were forcefully awakened, they would still be restricted by the dark demonic pattern. The light demonic pattern was more complex than the dark demonic pattern. It was like comparing a student who had just learned how to draw to an artist. The difference was like heaven and earth. Slap. Lin Feng almost instantly withdrew his right hand that had touched the black ball of light. Shock appeared on his face as his brows furrowed tightly. Right now, he only needed a thought to send in more darkness bloodline energy to transform and upgrade his bloodline. But was it really possible? No. Lin Feng had a feeling that he couldn't control it. The dark demonic pattern was so powerful that it was beyond his control. It was like a demon in his body had awakened, but he couldn't suppress this demon's power. Lin Feng hesitated. He could faintly sense what would happen in the next moment. Breaking through the singularity, the dark demonic pattern would transform to a new level, reaching the 5th stage. This stage was powerful enough to raise his life level to that of a high-class god or even a god. With his current battle power and cultivation level, once his life level increased, his battle power would definitely evolve. Adding on the talent granted by the 5th stage of the dark demonic pattern, it wouldn't be difficult for the 6 paths of darkness to reach 100,000 origins. Soon, he would step into the god level and enter the top 10 of the Origin Awakening list. However, the price of doing so was destroying everything he had before. The light demonic pattern would be devoured by the powerful dark demonic pattern, along with the black whirlpool. The 5th stage of the dark demonic pattern was beyond his control. Losing the light demonic pattern would be an eternal loss. He would no longer be able to cultivate the myriad heaven path left by his ancestor, the path of light and darkness. From there, he would walk on a new path of darkness cultivation. Lin Feng frowned deeply. 2 paths were in front of him. One, he could quickly obtain great power, but his future was unknown. Although the cultivation level in the future was clear, there were many unpredictable things. The other path had clear cultivation levels that pointed directly to the Great Tao, but the increase in strength was limited. How should he choose? Chapter 2071. I can't do that. Lin Feng quickly rejected his previous thoughts. Taking shortcuts was not his style. The Great Tao of Darkness was good, but there were many unknown dangers. His future was uncertain. Also, his strength could only reach the level of godly spirit. How should he proceed? He didn't like feeling his way around in the dark. Maybe he would go fast, but he would get slower and slower. Since I've chosen the path of my ancestor and cultivated the myriad heaven Tao, I have to walk down it unswervingly. Although this path was very difficult and slow, Lin Feng knew that it was a true Great Tao. Any path that was easy to walk might not be far. On the contrary, the harder the path was, the greater the rewards and the further one could go. Also, although the dark MO pattern cannot reach the 5th stage, it has reached the limit of the 4th stage. My dark power has transformed in all aspects. Using the great Tao of darkness and cultivating 100,000 origins is much stronger than before. It's enough. There was no need to be greedy. He should stop when he was ahead. There was no need to ruin his future for the sake of immediate benefit. Although the path of the myriad heaven paths fusion of light and darkness was very difficult to walk, not only did this path have a complete inheritance and cultivation system, it had also begun to show its brilliance and great power. It was very difficult to give up what was at his fingertip. However, Lin Feng's heart was firm. It's okay, I'm just a step late. Lin Feng looked at the dark ball of light, his eyes bright. With this pinnacle true treasure, I can absorb the dark bloodline power at any time and increase my level. His divine light pattern was at the 3rd stage. When it reached the 4th stage, wouldn't his dark MO pattern break through? His body could withstand the difference of 1 stage. With the Holy Land origin as the core of the dark MO pattern, it can continuously increase the power of darkness. And with this dark ball of light providing bloodline power for the dark origin, not only can I cultivate the great Tao of darkness quickly and smoothly, I won't have any bottlenecks. Withdraw. Lin Feng did as he thought. Since he was here, there was no reason to miss the dark ball of light. He knew very well that this ball of darkness was extremely important to the blood succubus beast. It was because of its existence that there was the forbidden black land and a large number of ordinary blood succubus beasts could evolve into blood succubus beasts commanders. Once he took it away, it would be the same as poking a hornet's nest, cutting off one of the blood-devouring beast's crucial lines. Just like how he took away the source of the sacred land that day, the impact on the Green Palm tribe could be said to be great. Back then, it was an unintentional mistake, but today it was intentional. So what if he took it? Swish. Lin Feng immediately put away the black ball of light. There wasn't much resistance, and the black ball of light didn't reject him either. But as the black ball of light disappeared, the entire region seemed to suddenly become empty and dim. It was as if the earth had lost its sun. The energy of darkness decreased sharply, and the power of darkness began to degenerate. Even the elements of darkness in the air became unstable. It was as if the core of a great array had been taken away, causing the entire area to undergo a tremendous change. As expected, Lin Feng was not surprised. The dark ball of light was the core of this holy land. Go! Without any hesitation, Lin Feng left the moment he took the black ball of light with him. The blood-devouring beasts couldn't enter this place, and he wasn't afraid of them, but the blood-devouring beast king was very dangerous. Would the blood-devouring beast king let him go if he took away the treasure of the blood-devouring beasts just like that? But such a pinnacle true treasure was right in front of him. It would be too cowardly not to take it. If the blood-devouring beast king wanted to kill him, then so be it. One more enemy might not be a good thing, but the situation wouldn't necessarily become too bad. It's a pity that I can't fuse with this black ball of light now. Lin Feng felt very clearly that the energy of the black ball of light was too strong, and he definitely couldn't fuse with it now. He might even be injured by the backlash. Only when the dark magic pattern reached the 5th stage could he possibly fuse with this pinnacle true treasure. He didn't return the way he came. This area was very large, and it was very difficult for other experts to enter. It would be a pity if he didn't explore carefully. Perhaps there were other treasures besides the black ball of light. Whoosh, whoosh. As he obtained the black ball of light, the entire area changed drastically, and the search for the aura was gradually unhindered. Lin Feng searched carefully in the direction of the dissipating energy, and soon found another strange place. Blood Mud Pool. Lin Feng looked up. It was very similar to the blood mud pool he fell into before, and the feeling was very similar, but the energy here was much stronger than the blood mud pool. Even without the cover of the black ball of light, It was still much stronger than the blood mud pool when the energy of the black ball of light was abundant. I understand. Lin Feng reacted quickly. This should be another black forbidden land. The blood-devouring beasts have a black forbidden land that can transform ordinary blood-devouring beasts into blood-devouring beast commanders. Naturally, it can also transform blood-devouring beast commanders into blood-devouring beast lords. The two forbidden lands should be separated. The structure of the blood mud pool here is different from the black forbidden land. It's more compact, and the energy concentration is stronger. The blood mud pool itself is also smaller. Because it was small and compact, the energy was more refined and powerful. But whether it was transforming from an ordinary blood-devouring beast to a blood-devouring beast commander, or from a blood-devouring beast commander to a blood-devouring beast lord, the essence was exactly the same. It was the same as the evolution of his dark mageweth. It required bloodline energy, and all the bloodline energy came from the black ball of light he had just obtained. Phew, Lin Feng sighed softly. If the blood-devouring beast king knew about this, he would probably be furious. What he did could be said to have destroyed the foundation of the blood-devouring beast. But he didn't feel guilty. This was the chaotic void, where the strong were respected, and the weak were prey to the strong. Whether or not he took the black ball of light, the blood-devouring beast king would still kill him if he saw him. They were enemies, not friends. Since that was the case, why should he be polite? The spatial disorder here is very strong. It's completely suppressed by the dark matter. The entire spatial region is very chaotic. Lin Feng's perception was very clear. The various great Tao of darkness had merged into one. There was almost no spatial energy here. Even if there was, it was completely suppressed. The law of dark matter was constantly distorted. The law of annihilation devoured space. The law of darkness was very effective. It was difficult to sense the law of space even if he calmed down. If he hadn't completely analyzed the 100,000 origins and had the experience of the Black Forbidden Land, he would definitely have gotten lost. But now, his mind was very clear. The path he had taken, including the place he came from, were very clear. The two forbidden lands were connected. What did this mean? This must be the most important area of the blood-devouring beast lair. If there are treasures, it's most likely here. Lin Feng was very sure. Chapter 2072. Lin Feng explored carefully. He was very sure that there was a secret here. It was connected to the two forbidden areas of the blood python lair, and had the dark ball as its core. Plus, only the blood python beast king could enter, so it was hidden enough to be the best treasure trove. However, Lin Feng did not ask for too much. Obtaining the dark ball was equivalent to earning a peak true treasure. He did not think that there was any treasure in the blood python lair that could be more precious than the dark ball. Just like how the origin of the Holy Land was to the green tree race, the dark ball was probably one of the foundations of the blood python beast race. This way, Lin Feng followed his intuition. The entire Holy Land was quite distorted. The law of dark matter affected every corner, making it extremely difficult to distinguish directions. Especially without the dark ball, the entire area seemed to have lost its center of gravity and was a mess. Lin Feng was very confident in his sixth sense. He did not have a destination to begin with, so he did not need to be too deliberate. He could just follow his heart. The blood-maned beast king and the black ball of light are probably mentally connected. He will soon know that I have taken away the black ball of light. Lin Feng thought, whether I can find the treasure or not, I need to leave this place as soon as possible. Although there were rumors that the two blood python beast king were both in the meteorite turbulence danger zone, it was better to be careful. What a pity! If the threat of the blood python beast king wasn't there, it would be good to cultivate here. Lin Feng was touched. Every law of darkness, every bit of dark energy, and every bit of dark elemental element was perfect and flawless. Cultivating here, Comprehending the 100,000 origin connections would be twice the result with half the effort. After refining the powerful death python primordial heart, his path of oblivion's 100,000 origin connections had already exceeded half. In addition, he had improved a lot after 1,100 years of cultivation. After refining the high-grade blood python horns, 2 of them contained the path of oblivion. Now, his path of oblivion's 100,000 origin connections had exceeded 80%. As for the remaining 20%, it would probably take a very long time in the outside world. But if he cultivated here, it would take at least 1,000 years, or even several thousand years. He would definitely succeed. From the 3rd stage of great perfection to the 4th stage of great perfection, connecting 100,000 origin points, condensing the law all, and finally reaching 100,000 origin realm. However, he could only think about it. It was too impractical to cultivate in the enemy's lair. I'll take it one step at a time. Lin Feng's figure continued to flicker. The deeper he went, the harder it was for him to discern the direction. However, he was still able to remember the general direction. After all, he had experience in the Forbidden Blackland, so he was quite familiar with this place. Suddenly, Lin Feng was slightly surprised. In front of him was a mountain of junk. Broken swords, armors, and some other things were piled up there like a pile of junk. Step. Lin Feng stopped in front of the pile of waste and took the sword. Destroyed. Lin Feng stroked the body of the sword, and his heart skipped a beat. Based on his experience in dealing with true treasures, the material of this treasured sword was at least of the elite true treasure level. It was very likely to be an outstanding true treasure. The armor is destroyed as well. Lin Feng took the armor, and his gaze fell on a fiery red half-moon-shaped true treasure. Holding it in his hand, it instantly burned like a raging fire. The half-moon true treasure emitted a fierce flame, and its power was boundless. An outstanding true treasure? Lin Feng was startled, and he couldn't help but laugh. His luck was too good. He had found an outstanding true treasure so casually. Although this true treasure didn't suit him, no matter how high its grade was, it was still worth a lot. Putting away the fiery red half-moon true treasure, Lin Feng began to search again. With the previous gains, Lin Feng was mentally prepared. As expected, he found one true treasure after another. Among them, there were 2 outstanding true treasures. One of them was even an outstanding true treasure of the light element. Even the broken sword was of the light element. Moreover, there was a storage ring. A solitary expert. Lin Feng confirmed the owner of these treasures. It came from a supreme figure who was once ranked in the top 10 of the Origin Awakening list. He didn't know which reincarnation era he was from, but his strength was unquestionable. He died here. Lin Feng sighed. The top 10 of the Origin Awakening list had god-level strength. Although they were invincible in the Origin Awakening continent, this was the chaotic void, the holy land of the blood python lair. Most likely, he died under the claws of the 2 blood python beast king. Lin Feng was very clear that with the strength of the top 10 of the Origin Awakening list, even if he faced a group of blood python lords, he could escape unscathed. Apart from the 2 terrifyingly powerful blood python beast king, there was basically no one else who could kill him. Lin Feng put away the pile of treasures that had been here for who knew how many eras. If he could enter this holy land, other experts would naturally have their own methods. However, it was difficult to enter, and perhaps even more difficult to leave. This pile of treasures had obviously been casually piled up here by the blood python beast king as spoils of war. Now that he had arrived here, it meant that he was very close to the blood python beast king's lair. Leave or continue? The problem in front of Lin Feng was very realistic. If he continued to walk, the closer he got to the blood python beast king's lair, the more treasures there might be, but at the same time, the greater the danger he would face. The Blood Python Beast King was a super powerful existence that could kill the top 10 of the Origin Awakening list. With his current strength, it was basically hitting a stone with an egg. However, leaving now was too cowardly. Knowing that there might be treasures ahead, but giving up because of fear, wouldn't people laugh their heads off? Knowing that there is a tiger in the mountain, but walking towards the tiger's mountain. Lin Feng smiled calmly. He instantly sped forward, increasing his speed. He was more than 70% sure that the Blood Python Beast King was not in the lair. Otherwise, this place was so close to its lair, and he had taken the black ball of light. Why would it be so peaceful and not look for him? While it's not here, I'll loot everything here and then escape. Taking one item was taking 10 items was also taking. Why not take more? Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. His sixth sense was abnormally strong as he looked straight ahead. No. Still not. The law of dark matter divided the area into countless fragments, like a maze. It was impossible to search all of it in a short period of time. He could only rely on luck. Oh! Haha, it's here. Hard work paid off. Lin Feng finally found it. His figure entered a spacious jade palace. The entire palace was filled with black fog. Even though it had lost the black ball of light, it was not affected in the slightest. It was an independent entity, like an existence of a supreme treasure. Inside the palace, towering Blood Python Beast King stood proudly. Every one of them seemed to be the embodiment of natural darkness. Their postures were different, and their golden horns had complex mysterious patterns that seemed to be able to pierce a hole in the sky. However, these 6 Blood Python Beast King did not have any aura of life. They had already fallen a long time ago. Phew, Lin Feng let out a light breath, his eyes bright. He had finally found it. Chapter 2073. Golden Blood Centipede Horn, Supreme Blood Centipede Horn. Lin Feng took a deep breath. Looking at the 6 Blood Centipede Beast King of different shapes, Lin Feng's heartbeat quickened. If it were other warriors, they might not be able to distinguish the golden Supreme Blood Centipede Horn, but he cultivated the Tao of Darkness. Especially when he had just refined 10 high-grade Blood Centipede Horns. The golden Supreme Blood Centipede Horn in front of him was on a completely different level from the high-grade Blood Centipede Horn. It was perfect. It was flawless. It was like a piece of art created by the heavens. A bit more would make it full, and a bit less would make it incomplete. The secret runes on the Supreme Blood Centipede Horn were a perfect whole, connected to the most fundamental existence of 100,000 origins. He's gone mad. Lin Feng shook his head in shock. The Supreme Blood Centipede Horn was a treasure that existed in legends. Each horn represented the crystallization of a Tao of darkness that had reached 100,000 origins. Refining a high-grade Blood Centipede Horn would allow one to obtain many mysteries of 100,000 origins. But refining a Supreme Blood Centipede Horn would allow one to directly reach the 4th stage of perfection, connecting 100,000 origins and then condensing them into a law all. Only one step was needed. Once it was crossed, one could truly reach 100,000 origins. The difference between a high-grade Blood Centipede Horn and a Supreme Blood Centipede Horn was like heaven and earth. Each Supreme Blood Centipede Horn was worth as much as a pinnacle true treasure. Perhaps their value was inferior to the Ball of Darkness he had just obtained, but the increase in his strength surpassed the Ball of Darkness. The most terrifying thing was, there were 6 Supreme Blood Centipede Horns in front of him. It was too crazy. The Blood Centipede Beast Race's sacred land. This must be the most precious sacred land of the Blood Centipede Beast Race. Generations of Beast King of the Blood Centipede Beast Race are buried here. That's why there are so many Supreme Blood Centipede Horns. Lin Feng glanced over and instantly judged. It was very simple, because the current Blood Centipede Beast King only had 2. Phew, Lin Feng let out a sigh of relief. He had thought that obtaining the Ball of Darkness was a great opportunity. Who would have thought that there was an even bigger cake waiting for him? 6 Supreme Blood Centipede Horns. If the top 10 powerhouses of the Origin Awakening list were to see this, they would most likely fight madly for these 6 horns. The value was too high. Swish! Lin Feng's body flashed. He was extremely cautious. The more critical the situation was, the more careful he had to be. After all, this was the most important place for the blood-sucking beast. However, there was clearly no special defense here, and Lin Feng quickly entered. In fact, the 2 forbidden lands were already natural defenses. How could it be so easy to enter? Moreover, no one knew that there was another world beneath the forbidden grounds. With the blood-maned Beast King guarding the place, entering this place was basically a dead end. The solo powerhouse ranked in the top 10 of the Origin Awakening list was the best example. Pa! Lin Feng's hand directly grasped one of the sovereign blood centipede horns. In an instant, a shockingly powerful force surged out from his tentacle. It was a golden blood centipede beast king with blood-red eyes. It blotted out the sun as it opened its bloody mouth and bit down. The speed was extremely fast. Break! Lin Feng opened his eyes and directly broke through the illusion. The demonic runes on his body bloomed. The origin of the sacred land provided an endless amount of energy that wrapped around the sovereign blood centipede horn. The two merged like fish and water, and in an instant, the sovereign blood centipede horn lit up with a golden light. Got it! Lin Feng revealed a smile and directly put it away. The will pressure from the sovereign blood centipede horn might be useful against ordinary 9-star powerhouses, but it was no threat to him at all. The second horn. The third horn. Lin Feng smoothly obtained it. Even though the sovereign blood main horn possessed some power, he cultivated the way of darkness and had reached the third phase of great perfection with 100,000 reciprocity experts. He was equivalent to a blood main beast lord, so the sovereign blood main horn obviously would not reject him. In the blink of an eye, he had obtained 4 sovereign blood centipede horns. Suddenly, not good. Lin Feng's expression suddenly changed. Although the range of his aura was not large, he could feel a powerful force rapidly approaching. Lin Feng used his fastest speed to obtain the 5th sovereign blood centipede horn. As soon as he obtained it, a terrifying soul energy descended. Boom! Lin Feng's body staggered, his face slightly pale. This was a direct collision with the soul. There were not many experts in the Origin Awakened continent who could use such a move, and those with such power could be counted on one hand. Moreover, each of them belonged to the same race. He was the most familiar with them. Destiny race. Lin Feng put away the 5th sovereign blood centipede horn. His right foot heavily stepped on the blood centipede beast king's body, which had already been condensed by darkness, and borrowed the force to obtain the 6th sovereign blood centipede horn. If he had not sensed the destiny race, Lin Feng would have fled long ago. Although the destiny race's experts were not weak, compared to the blood centipede beast king, they were not on the same level. Moreover, he was too familiar with the destiny race. With such soul power, he was most likely the second strongest expert of the destiny race. The 13th ranked on the Origin Awaken list, Wu Jitian. You're courting death. In the distance, Wu Jitian's bloody eyes were filled with rage. Only the heavens knew what he had experienced. Coming down from the imperial palace, he had encountered many dangers. Even with his powerful senses, he had almost died. However, the heavens did not disappoint those who persevered. One day, the energy of the originally dead end suddenly dissipated, and the sealed path opened. He had actually found the path to the sacred ground. 3,000 years. He was the first to enter the chaotic void, and the first to enter the blood centipede nest. His goal was the sovereign blood centipede horn. After expending a tremendous amount of effort, he had finally found it, only to discover that someone had beaten him to it. He was furious. Die! Wu Jitian was furious. With blood-red eyes, he directly used his soul's secret technique, staking everything he had to kill Lin Feng. He would not let this human youth escape no matter what, because this human youth had the sovereign blood centipede horn. It was a supreme treasure that even kings would scramble for. Boom! The blood-red light shot towards Lin Feng. Wu Jitian was 100% confident. This attack had gathered 20% of his soul strength. Even the top 10 experts of the Origin Awakener list would be injured if they received this attack. This little human fellow hadn't even been able to withstand his normal soul strength attack. Even if he didn't die, he would be heavily injured. He was full of confidence. However, in an instant, Wu Jitian's mind shook and his face turned pale. He groaned as if he had been struck by lightning. His entire body retreated, and he spat out blood. Wu Jitian's eyes were filled with disbelief as he was overwhelmed with shock. This attack, which had gathered 20% of his soul energy, had not only failed to destroy the human youth's sea of consciousness, but it had also been shattered. Impossible! Wu Jitian's soul was devoured. He was shocked. At this moment, he saw that the human youth, who had been injured by his normal soul attack, had taken the sovereign blood centipede horn as if nothing had happened. He even smiled at him and left. What had happened? Wu Jitian's mind was in a mess. Chapter 2074. I got them all. Lin Feng put away the last supreme blood lotus horn and immediately left. Not a single one was left behind. Stupid! Lin Feng laughed. When he had been attacked by Wu Jitian's soul, he had only pretended to be injured. With a soul defensive treasure like the 10,000 Origin Mustard Stone, let alone Wu Jitian, even if all the experts of the Destiny race combined their soul attacks, they wouldn't be able to do anything to him. However, apart from soul attacks, the Destiny race was also quite strong in the Tao of space and telekinesis. Wu Jitian's strength was genuine, and he was ranked 13th on the Origin Awakening list. If he was entangled with him, the chances of him obtaining the 6th Supreme Blood Lotus Horn would be around 50%. The most troublesome thing was that he would have to fight him. Right now was not the time to fight, because this was not a suitable place. If this was any other place, Lin Feng might try to test Wu Jitian's strength, but in the palace of the Blood Lotus Beasts, what a joke. He had already taken 6 Supreme Blood Lotus Horns and the Sacred Land's core of darkness. What was he waiting for? He should stop while he was ahead. There might be other treasures in this ancient palace, but Lin Feng didn't have time to investigate. It didn't matter. With 6 Supreme Blood Lotus Horns in hand, Lin Feng was already very satisfied. More accurately, he was too satisfied. Whoosh! Whoosh! Lin Feng was extremely fast. A clear map appeared in his mind. He judged the changes in the law of dark matter and returned the way he had come. Perhaps there was another way out, but it was better to be familiar. Although returning the way he had come would take a bit more time, it was at least safe. He didn't have to fumble around like a blind man crossing a river. Human Lin Feng. It's him, it must be him. After a moment of confusion, this name suddenly appeared in Wu Jitian's mind. This was the little human who had once turned the Destiny realm upside down. He knew all the experts on the Origin Awakening list, but none of them looked like this. So young, so powerful, and the strangest thing was that this human youth wasn't afraid of soul attacks at all. Apart from that freak Lin Feng, who else could it be? Damn it. It's him again. He's ruined my Destiny race's plans time and time again. Wu Jitian gritted his teeth, his eyes sharp. In a split second, he stepped on the long white shuttle and locked his aura. Then, he turned into a stream of light and chased after him. It hadn't been easy for them to find the blood-devouring beast's sacred palace and discover the sovereign blood-devouring horn, but they had to watch it be taken away. That kind of heartache was like someone had hollowed out something. It was incomparably uncomfortable. It's mine. This is my opportunity. Damn it. Wu Jitian was heartbroken as he roared furiously. What he didn't know was that he couldn't even enter the blood-devouring beast clan's sacred land, let alone discover the sacred palace and the sovereign blood-devouring horn. There were only 3 entrances to the Holy Land, each more difficult than the last. Coming down from the King Palace in the deepest part of the blood-maned lair was the most dangerous place. There was no way out. He had to thank Lin Feng for being able to find the way. It was only because Lin Feng had taken away the ball of darkness and destroyed the Holy Land's defenses that he was able to enter. Otherwise, even after 3,000 years, or even 3,000 epochs, he still wouldn't be able to reach Sacred Hall. Do you think you can escape? Don't be naive. Wu Jitian's eyes were cold. He was very confident in his perception. Even the top 10 experts on the Origin Awakener list wouldn't be able to escape once they were locked onto by his aura, let alone a mere human. As long as he locked onto Lin Feng's position, even if he escaped to the ends of the earth, he would be able to catch up. However, it was only for a short while. What? Wu Jitian was stunned. The dense aura of dark matter shrouded the entire area. The spatial perception was extremely blurry, and even his perception and soul were blocked. Previously, he could still vaguely sense it, but now, he couldn't even sense it. It was as if the sky had gradually darkened until he couldn't even see his fingers. He couldn't sense any aura at all. This is impossible. How did he escape? Wu Jitian, who had just entered the Holy Land, naturally didn't know what method Lin Feng had used. Actually, the method was very simple. He had used the distortion of the law of dark matter. Soul perception had a distance. Everyone was moving at light speed, so they could lock onto each other's soul aura. However, the law of dark matter would forcefully interfere here. When the area was distorted, the distance would naturally change. The distance would become shorter, but the aura would still be locked onto. However, when the distance increased, it was as if one's vision was blurred, and they couldn't see far away. Naturally, the aura detection would be cut off. To Lin Feng, who was familiar with this place, using the law of dark matter was extremely easy. Even if he wasn't familiar with the terrain, he was proficient in the law of dark matter. Forcefully using the characteristics of the area to cut off the aura detection wasn't difficult. The next time we meet, we'll compete again. There will always be a chance. Lin Feng smiled. With his current strength, he might be a little wary of Wu Jitian outside, but here, with the law of dark matter, even if Wu Jitian was stronger, he wouldn't fear him. However, the timing wasn't right. His sixth sense told him that an unknown terror was about to arrive. This terror wasn't something he could resist right now. Blood Mane Beast Race, Holy Palace, the 6-headed Blood Mane Beast King stood proudly, his aura soaring to the heavens. However, without the sovereign blood mane horn on his head, his aura was greatly reduced. It was as if a dragon had lost its eyes. Outside the palace, a figure appeared, cursing. Unlucky! Wu Jitian's expression was extremely ugly. His soul had already been injured, and now everything was going wrong. He was furious. But what could he do? Don't let me catch you! I'll make you pay with interest. The sovereign blood mane horn belongs to the destiny race. Wu Jitian's eyes were cold as he entered the palace. Even if he couldn't eat the meat, he could at least drink the soup. Now that he couldn't catch up to that human Lin Feng, he could only suppress his anger. The blood mane beast race's holy palace should have other good things besides the sovereign blood mane horn. There. Wu Jitian spread out his aura and quickly found the location of the treasure. It wasn't hidden very well, so it was easy to find. Normally, even the sovereign blood-sucking horn could be seen at a glance, not to mention the other scattered treasures. Unlucky! Wu Jitian knew the value of the treasures with just a glance. He was so angry that he ground his teeth. These treasures might be useful to other 9-star experts, but the Destiny race didn't lack them. Everything added together wasn't even a third of the sovereign blood mane horn. But no matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. Although Wu Jitian was cursing, he still nimbly collected the treasures. At this moment, boom! A monstrous aura descended as a boundless blood-red color filled the air. The entire sacred palace shook violently. Wu Jitian's expression changed drastically as he instinctively tried to escape. However, a blood-red enchantment appeared around the sacred palace as if it was a cage that completely locked him in. Pung! Wu Jitian was like a bird in a cage, his face pale. God-damned destiny race, who gave you the guts? An angry roar rumbled like thunder in the holy palace. Chapter 2075. His blood-red eyes emitted a terrifying aura. The golden sovereign blood-maned horn on his forehead was covered with mysterious spiral patterns. Extreme dark energy spread out, and the scales on his body stood upright. His huge body floated in the air above the sacred palace like a deity, looking down on the little ones. Blood-Mane Beast King, T1. Tao of Darkness, 100,000 Origin Realm, with the sovereign blood-mane horn, a true divine realm expert. His arrival caused the entire hall to instantly become alive. At this moment, Wu Jitian's face was ghastly pale while his body couldn't help but tremble. He was like a thief who'd been caught red-handed while trying to steal something. The Destiny race could get whatever they wanted in the Origin Awakened continent, and they were not afraid of anyone. However, in the chaotic void they were usually very low-key. This was because there were too many powerful races in the chaotic void, and the Blood-Mane Beast race was one of them. Destiny race, how dare you? Blood-Mane Beast King T1's eyes were red as he raged. You even dare to blaspheme the remains of my Blood-Mane Beast race's ancestor. Damn it, damn it! Die! T1 roared as his power erupted. He was already much stronger than Wu Jitian, and he had the absolute advantage. Killing Wu Jitian was like squashing an ant. The terrifying dark energy suddenly descended. No, it wasn't me! Wu Jitian screamed. He cursed in his heart. Not only did he not get a single sovereign blood-mane horn, but he also had to bear the blame. He was wronged. Die! Blood-Mane Beast King T1's claw imprints filled the sky, completely sealing the space. No matter how strong Wu Jitian's defense was, it was riddled with holes. After taking dozens of attacks, he was like a human sandbag, spitting out blood as he was heavily injured. T1, you dare to kill me! Wu Jitian was shocked as he screamed. Why wouldn't I dare? Blood-Mane Beast King T1's voice was bone-chilling. He raised his claws and looked down. If it was Wu Long's soul attack, I might be a little afraid. But you? You can't kill me. Wu Jitian's lips turned pale. He gritted his teeth and said, If you kill me, it's the same as going against the Destiny race. The king will not let you go. Blood-Maned Beast King Tyvan kept silent. His cold eyes turned and a blood-red light seeped out. His hesitation gradually turned into decisiveness as he looked down at Wu Jitian. Hand over the supreme blood centipede horn and scram as far as you can. Wu Jitian was stunned. He could see that it was the blood-maned Beast King Tyvan's ultimatum. But the problem was that he didn't take it. Aye. Wu Jitian panicked. I didn't take it, T1, it really wasn't me. Hand it over. The blood-maned Beast King T1 gritted his teeth. The murderous intent in his blood-red eyes was getting more and more intense. Wisps of black mist seeped out from his scales, carrying an impatient mood. He was about to lose control. It's Lin Feng. It's Lin Feng. Believe me, T1, I really didn't take the Supreme Blood Centipede horn. Wu Jitian panicked. He knew the two blood-maned Beast King T1 very well. Although they were terrifyingly strong, they weren't that intelligent. Their tempers were also extremely irritable. But now, I'll give you one last chance, Destiny Tribe. The blood-maned Beast King T1 stared at Wu Jitian, gritting his teeth as he spoke. His murderous intent filled the air, and the entire sacred hall shook violently. Run! Wu Jitian cursed in his heart, but he had nowhere else to go. He could only run in a panic. But now there was no point in explaining. However, he was in the sacred hall, and the blood-maned beast King T1 was staring at him. How could he let him escape? "You're courting death." T1 had already lost his patience. He would never let the supreme blood centipede horn be taken away by another tribe. A terrifying darkness descended, trapping Wu Jitian. The latter was like a bird in a cage, struggling with all his might, but it was to no avail. With a boom, Wu Jitian was devoured by the darkness, dying without a burial place. Pung! The blood-maned beast King T1's body shook violently as he staggered and fell to the ground. His aura instantly weakened, and even his consciousness was in a daze, as if he had been struck by lightning. That was Wu Jitian's death soul attack. If it was the top 10 experts of the Origin Awakening list, they would have died. Only a special lifeform like the blood-maned Beast King could resist it, but the price was not small. T1 had no choice. "You don't know what's good for you." T1 frowned, extremely unwilling. He wasn't afraid of other experts, but even his big brother, Timu, was afraid of the Destiny Tribe's king. But the ancestor's supreme blood centipede horn could not be taken away. But T1 directly broke Wu Jitian's storage ring, and rare treasures appeared one after another. The heaven and earth fruits emitted a tempting fragrance, and there were also secret techniques and treasures that ordinary experts would covet. Only the supreme blood centipede horn was missing. "It's not here." "How can it not be here?" T1's eyes widened and he found it hard to believe. He searched with all his might, rummaging through the storage ring several times, and even crushing Wu Jitian's body into pieces. Not even a hair was left, but he still couldn't find the supreme blood centipede horn. Pung! 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 Lin Feng turned into a stream of light, speeding away, his heart beating extremely fast. "It's the blood-maned Beast King. It must be the blood-maned Beast King." He could vaguely feel a trace of extremely weak aura, like the air was shaking. It wasn't energy, but a pure radiation of pressure. He could feel it from so far away, so the identity of the newcomer was obvious. Coupled with his sixth sense, it reached his heart. Lin Feng was almost 90% sure that it was the blood-maned Beast King. He wasn't surprised. Previously, he had seen the relics of the solitary experts outside the sacred palace. It seemed that the blood-maned Beast King could come and go freely in the blood-maned lair, and he could even travel through several forbidden lands. After all, their strength was there, and they had stayed in the turbulent void for countless eras. The turbulent void was no longer a secret to them. "Luckily, I ran fast. It would be terrible if I was caught." Lin Feng thought to himself that he was lucky. If he had been entangled by Wu Jitian, he would have been in big trouble. With his current strength, he couldn't fight against the blood-maned Beast King. He had taken the holy item, the dark light sphere, and 6 supreme blood centipede horns. No matter how he looked at it, the blood-maned Beast King wouldn't let him go. "I have to leave this place quickly." Lin Feng knew the danger. Although there was no dark light sphere as the core, the whole area seemed to have lost its soul. It wouldn't be easy for the blood-maned Beast King to find him. However, this was his territory. Since he was in the tiger's den, it was better to run as fast as possible. "I'm here." Lin Feng remembered the route clearly in his mind. After going around in circles, he had returned to the place where he first landed. At the bottom of the forbidden Black Land. However, there wasn't a huge suction force here, only some chaotic dark energy was left. Swoosh! Lin Feng leaped up and dove straight into the blood-colored mud pool. Chapter 2076. The sacred palace was in a mess. Blood-maned Beast King T1 was completely stunned. He had seen the Destiny race guy stealing his treasures with his own eyes. However, he could not find the supreme blood-maned horn even after searching through all his storage rings. Those were the supreme blood-maned horns. Each of them contained the last bit of his ancestors' will and blood. To the blood-maned beast race, these were priceless treasures. T1 did not care if the other treasures were gone, but he could not lose any of the 6 supreme blood-maned horns. Moreover, this was closely related to the reputation of the blood-maned beast race. Damn it! This guy must have an accomplice. He took the supreme blood-maned horn and ran away. Right, he mentioned that he was called Li Feng? Yes, Li Feng. T1 recalled carefully, and his hair stood on end. However, he was so angry that he didn't remember it clearly in the heat of the moment. That should be right. T1's eyes lit up, and his anger surged again. They are accomplices. They must not have run far. They must still be nearby. I will catch him and tear him to pieces. T1 was extremely vicious, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. However, he felt dizzy just as he stood up. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. His expression was extremely ugly. The soul shock of death had caused his soul to suffer heavy injuries. No matter what, Wu Jitian was an expert ranked 13th on the Origin Awakening list. If T1 was not a special lifeform with a powerful bloodline and was an expert of the God Spirit realm, his soul would have been destroyed by the death soul shock. Damned destiny race. T1 felt his soul weaken, and he was about to fall asleep. He opened his mouth and roared. Endless power poured out, causing the sacred ground to shake violently. T1's blood splashed wildly. He used a secret technique to force himself to stay awake. He could not faint. I will find you, Li Feng. T1's face was twisted with hatred. In the blood-colored mud, Lin Feng was slowly moving forward. The resistance is much lower now. Entering the crimson mire again, the feeling was completely different. It was not that his strength had increased, but that the crimson mire had lost its energy source. The ball of darkness was now in his hands. Although the resistance of the blood-colored mire still existed, it was much easier than before. At this rate, we'll be able to return to the Forbidden Black Land in less than 100 years. Lin Feng was overjoyed. He had spent a total of 1,100 years to come down from the Black Forbidden Land. Chi! Breaking through the bloody mud, Lin Feng's speed became faster and faster. At the bottom of the blood-colored mud pool, the resistance was the greatest. The higher one went, the smaller the energy and the weaker the resistance. However, Lin Feng's light energy needed time to recover, so his speed was somewhat slow. Wait! Lin Feng was slightly taken aback. Actually, we don't have to use light energy right now. We can use dark energy. The reason why he couldn't use the dark energy before was because it would be absorbed by the blood-colored mud pool and become an obstacle. But now, the blood-colored mud pool was like a pool of stagnant water. Without the support of the ball of darkness, it had become an energy without an owner. Since it couldn't be absorbed, it naturally wouldn't become an obstacle. Of course, using dark energy was definitely not as effective as using light energy. It had a restraining effect on darkness, but it could save him a lot of time to recover. Because the dark energy didn't need to be recovered at all. The source of the sacred land would continuously replenish it. Chi. After a short test, Lin Feng was overjoyed. It was as he had expected. Previously, his dark energy would be absorbed, but now it was only being consumed. This is much simpler. Lin Feng refined the supreme blood lotus horn while maintaining a steady speed. He wouldn't encounter any danger in the blood-colored mud pool. Plus, with the source of the sacred land continuously supplying him with energy, he only needed to maintain a trace of consciousness. The remaining 99% was used to refine the supreme blood lotus horn. Refining was extremely difficult. It was much harder than refining the high-grade blood lotus horn. I'm still not strong enough. Lin Feng sighed. If he had the strength of a god-level expert, refining the supreme blood lotus horn would be much easier. But now it would take at least a few hundred years. However, to be able to improve a great Tao of darkness from the 3rd stage to the 4th stage in a few hundred years was already very heaven-defying. Plus, it didn't require much comprehension. The refinement itself was like the reinforcement of memories, deeply imprinted in one's soul. Originally, the supreme blood lotus horn was already a perfect body. A true pinnacle, true treasure. Lin Feng was very satisfied. Although there were only 4 great Tao of darkness in the 6 golden blood lotus horns, 2 of them contained the same great Tao of darkness. It was already a great harvest. Originally, he had planned to kill a blood lotus beast lord and obtain more high-grade blood lotus horns to improve his 6 paths of darkness. But now there was no need for that. When I return to the Forbidden Blackland, I'll leave the nest as soon as possible. I can't stay here for long. Lin Feng was very clear. The Blood Lotus Beast King had already returned. He must have realized that the supreme Blood Lotus Horn was gone, including the Ball of Darkness. Now, he was probably furious and crazy, and was going to sweep through the Blood Centipede's lair. As long as there was a chance, he would run as far as he could. It was too dangerous to stay here. Sweeping through. Lin Feng was right. The Blood Lotus Beast King, Devon, was sweeping through the sacred land, searching inch by inch for the Destiny Race companion called Li Feng. His eyes were filled with anger. The damage to his soul made him even crazier. As the master of the Blood Lotus Nest, Devon knew where the entrance to the sacred land was. The Imperial Palace. When he came, he had already discovered that the passage to the Imperial Palace was open. He had also returned to the Imperial Palace and learned from the other Blood Lotus Beast Lords that the Destiny Race expert he had killed had entered from the Imperial Palace. But after that, no one had left the Imperial Palace. That meant that Li Feng was still in the sacred land. Hide! I'll dig you out even if you have to dig 3 feet into the ground. The Blood Lotus Beast King, Devon, was furious. He would never allow the 6 supreme blood lotus horns of his ancestor to be lost in his hands. After reaching the level of God, the blood lotus beast's intelligence was not as good as that of humans, but it was still not bad. There were many things that he could clearly judge. He had been sweeping through for 15 years. In the entire sacred land, Devon was completely sure that Li Feng was not among them. How did he escape? Devon gritted his teeth, his eyes cold. It's the Forbidden Blackland. What a smart guy. He knew how to escape from 2 Forbidden Blacklands. But I'm not stupid either. Guard the 2 Forbidden Blacklands and the entrance to the Blood Lotus Nest. Let's see where you can run to. This time, you won't be able to escape even if you have wings. Chapter 2077. A storm was coming. The entire Blood Python lair was in an uproar. Many Blood Python beast lords rushed out from the depths of the Blood Python lair. There were so many of them that they looked like locusts. Every single one of them obeyed the orders of the Blood Python King, Tuan. Moreover, this matter concerned the dignity of the Blood Python beast clan. If a human barged into their lair and stole their clan's most precious treasure, how would the Blood Python beast clan survive in the turbulent void space? They would become a laughing stock. Capture them. They must capture them. Every single Blood Python had mustered all their strength. Their mournful eyes were filled with murderous intent as they treated the entire Blood Python lair as a battlefield. In an instant they were in a state of panic and danger was everywhere. The Forbidden Blackland and the Forbidden Wildland were even more heavily guarded. Many Blood Python beast lords were stationed there, keeping a close watch. Not even a speck of dust could fly out. T1 was certain that Li Feng, who had stolen their clan's treasure, was still in one of the 2 forbidden areas. However, he did not know which forbidden area he was in. It was not easy to search for him, as he was afraid that Li Feng would escape. Moreover, he had a foolproof plan. After guarding the entrance of the Blood Python lair, T1 seemed to have turned into a statue as he meditated and recovered from his injuries. After all, there was only one entrance to the Blood Python lair. It was both an entrance and an exit. No matter where Li Feng was hiding, he would have to leave through the entrance. Waiting for him was the safest way. T1 was not afraid of wasting time. To him, even 1,000 eras would pass in the blink of an eye. What's going on? Why are there so many Blood Python Beast Commanders and even Blood Python Beast Lords here? Master Chu's expression was grave. When he first entered the Blood Stallion's lair, everything was smooth sailing. However, a few years ago the situation suddenly changed. The Blood Stallions seemed to have gone mad. When they saw him, their eyes glowed and they tried their best to kill him. His strength was not bad. He could deal with the Blood Python Beast Commanders. However, it was difficult for him to deal with the Blood Python Beast Lords. Moreover, even those Blood Python Beast Commanders appeared in groups, one after another, like a continuous tide. It was impossible to resist the encirclement of the Blood Python Beast Commanders. Master Chu, who had been high-spirited at the beginning, was now in a sorry state. He had suffered a huge setback. Being ranked 18th on the Origin Awakening list was not omnipotent. This was the lair of one of the strongest clans in the turbulent void space, the blood-devouring beast clan. Retreat. Although Master Chu wanted to search for treasures, he did not dare to go too deep. The stronger one was, the more careful they would be, and the more they would cherish their lives. Otherwise, they wouldn't have lived for so long. Revenge was important, but to Master Chu, his life was more important. Without his life, there was no need to talk about revenge. That demonic blade King Lin Feng's strength is mediocre. He must be near the entrance of the cave. Master Chu snorted coldly with a steely expression. Even he could not stop the danger in the depths of the Blood Python lair, not to mention the mediocre demonic blade King Lin Feng. Master Chu had already investigated and understood the strength of demonic blade King Lin Feng. Indeed, he was very powerful to be able to kill Magic Flute. But that was all. Let's see if your luck is good, demonic blade king. Master Chu's eyes were cold. If you die under the claws of the Blood Python beast, you can die faster. But if I catch you, I will make you beg for death. Beg for death. The blood-colored mire was calm. 20 years passed in a flash. Lin Feng returned from the sacred land of the Blood Python lair. From the initial slow pace, his speed gradually became faster and faster, heading straight for the Black Forbidden Land. It's faster than expected by 80 years. Lin Feng smiled. Originally, it was estimated that it would take about 100 years to open the way. But with the source of the sacred land as the source, even though the speed was slower, there was no need to rest and recover. The speed was much faster. In just 20 years, he was already close to the top of the blood-colored mire. After all, it took him a total of 1,100 years to descend from the top. The efficiency was much lower. The dark ball of light must be quite a valuable pinnacle true treasure. Lin Feng wanted to merge immediately, but he knew that with his current strength, he could not control it. Forceful merging might backfire on him. No hurry. To him now, the most important thing was to refine the Supreme Blood Python horns. 4 Supreme Blood Python horns can help me improve my 4 Great Tao of Darkness from the 3rd stage to the 4th stage of perfection. My strength will definitely increase by a huge margin. Lin Feng had a clear plan in mind. He needed time. He also needed a quiet and secluded place to train. He only needed 1,000 years to completely refine the 4 Supreme Blood Python horns and raise his strength to another level. Although the turbulent void was a great reincarnation this time, it would open an era, which was 10,000 years. Now only 3,000 years had passed. Even if he trained for another 1,000 years, it would be more than enough. But Lin Feng knew that his time limit was different from other experts, because the lifespan of the Milky Way was almost up. Before entering the turbulent void, I have already spent 3,300 years. Now another 3,000 years have passed. The last 3,000 years. Lin Feng could not stay until the last moment to return to the Milky Way. His strength had reached the level of a god-level expert, and his combat power had reached the level of a high-level god-level expert. After 3,000 years, even if he could not reach the level of a god-level expert, he would at least have the combat power of a pinnacle god-level expert. When he returned to the Milky Way, he would have greater confidence and confidence. In the last 3,000 years, Lin Feng planned to go to the meteorite turbulent void. That was the most ancient and central area of the entire turbulent void. It was the core of the origin awakened continent and even the entire wandering planet. That place had the strongest energy. That place had the strongest life forms. That place had endless opportunities. It even contained the secret of the wandering planet. It was imperative. Lin Feng was extremely interested in the meteorite turbulent void. But first, I have to leave here. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He was already close to the top of the blood-colored mud pool. His aura spread out. Without the support of the dark light ball, the blood-colored mud pool was no longer obstructed, and he could sense it clearly. So many auras. It seems that my whereabouts have been exposed. Lin Feng was not surprised. Before coming out, he had already prepared for the worst. After 20 years, the blood-maned Beast King must have searched the entire Holy Land, but he still could not find the supreme blood-maned horn. With his understanding of the blood-maned Beast King's lair, it was completely possible for him to find his whereabouts. However, he doesn't seem to be here. Lin Feng was slightly relieved. If he sensed the blood-maned Beast King's aura, he did not need to think about anything and just directly escaped. If he fought head-on, he had no chance of winning. But without the blood-maned Beast King here, what was there to be afraid of? Bang! The blood-colored mud spread out, and Lin Feng flew into the sky. Chapter 2078. Back to the ancient palace. Lin Feng looked down from his vantage point. What he saw was a dense horde of blood python beasts. He couldn't find any ordinary blood python beasts. The weakest among them were blood python beast commanders. There were even a large number of blood python beast lords. There were more than 10,000 blood main beast commanders and more than 100 blood main beast lords in the palace alone. Including those outside the palace, the number was even more shocking. This formation was vast and majestic. It was like a huge net had been opened waiting for him to arrive. But he hadn't spent the last 1,100 years in vain. He had already mastered the top-tier excellent true treasure, Black Lotus, and his saber's omniscience had reached 100% perfection. He had mastered the 1,000 obscuring heavenly blade. He could already unleash 100% of the power of the fifth move, 1,000 obscuring heavenly blade. It could be said that his saber technique was close to mastery. Among all the god-level experts, there was almost no one whose saber technique or sword technique was stronger than Lin Feng's. At most, they were close. Spatial disorder. The moment Lin Feng appeared, he unfurled his wings of warmth. Before the blood main beasts could react, he attacked first. This was different from the sacred grounds. Although the dark energy was strong, it wasn't enough to suppress the spatial energy. Moreover, the forbidden Black Land had changed a lot because of the lack of the dark light ball. The control of darkness wasn't as strong as before. Tears of chaos. Lin Feng raised his hand and attacked straight ahead. Lin Feng's blade light flashed, forcibly opening up a path. Lin Feng darted out like a beam of light. He wasn't stupid. Even though his strength had improved greatly, he wasn't so arrogant as to think that he could go head-to-head with more than 100 blood main beast lords. He might be able to kill a few, but once surrounded, dying 100 times wouldn't be enough. The blood main beast king isn't here. The moment Lin Feng left the hall, his senses were clear, including the group of blood-devouring beasts outside. Their strength distribution and numbers were clear. There were tens of thousands of them. Such a formation was terrifying. But it was useless. Without the blood-maned beast king, the strongest blood-maned beast overlord couldn't stop Lin Feng. Perhaps it could match Lin Feng, but fighting and entanglement were two different things. Roar! Awo! The furious roars of the blood succubi rang out continuously. The entire area was filled with the blood python commanders, but the blood python lords were even bigger. No matter how big the ancient palace was, it couldn't accommodate so many blood python beasts fighting at the same time. In this chaotic area, the blood python overlord found it difficult to even move. But Lin Feng was different. Humans were small to begin with, and Lin Feng had the wings of warmth, a top-tier excellent treasure. He was also proficient in the great Daos of light speed and dark matter. He was quite good at dodging and teleporting. Most importantly, outside of the ancient palace was the forbidden Black Land, where the space of dark matter had changed. He had hunted there for 300 years and killed tens of thousands of blood devourers. The ever-changing space was a natural shelter. As long as one was strong enough, they could easily protect themselves. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Lin Feng was like a dancing butterfly. His body kept changing, and the wings of warmth performed space disorder. The chaotic situation became even worse. Many blood python lords were roaring in anger, but they couldn't do anything to Lin Feng. They were good at close-range attacks, but they couldn't get close at all. How much battle strength could they exert? They couldn't lock onto Lin Feng's position with their long-range attack. Blood python beasts indeed lack intelligence. Lin Feng thought to himself. In fact, he didn't need so many blood python lords. If they really wanted to surround him, they only needed to place 100 blood python lords here, and he wouldn't be able to escape. At that time, he would have to return to the blood mire to hide. But once his whereabouts were exposed, the blood python beast king would quickly lock onto him. Right now, the tens of thousands of blood python beasts that had appeared out of nowhere were not of any help. Instead, they had become natural obstacles, trapping the blood python beasts in one area like chains. Whoosh! Lin Feng rushed out of the ancient palace in an instant. The area in front of him suddenly opened up, but there were still countless blood python lords in all directions. They were densely packed, but they didn't have a system and were fighting on their own. Great Brahma! Lin Feng spread out his domain. The powerful space domain made Lin Feng's mind extremely clear. In an instant, he had a clear path. The black dragon in his hand emitted a dazzling light, and the source of the Holy Land suddenly erupted. Mandarin Duck Tai. Lin Feng retreated and defended at the same time. Heiting was like a magnet, attracting all attacks and returning them to the blood-sucking beast in the blink of an eye. It was a defensive technique similar to the Great Universal Shift and was extremely suitable for this group battle. His footsteps were like stepping on a 7-star array. With the help of Great Brahma's ability, Lin Feng clearly calculated every position, every attack, and every dodge. He gradually escaped from his original position outside the ancient palace. He was getting closer and closer to the membrane barrier. The blood python lords were so angry that they roared. Their continuous attacks couldn't do anything to Lin Feng. However, the area was much wider now. As many blood python lords retreated, more and more blood python lords joined in the encirclement. Lin Feng's situation was getting more and more dangerous. However, that wasn't the case. It's about time. Lin Feng used Mandarin Duck Tai again with a calm expression. It was as if a pair of mandarin ducks were dancing in the void. The black dragon shone brightly, as if it was extremely excited and its blood was boiling. Ha! Lin Feng's eyes were wide open. The dark demonic patterns appeared one by one. It had reached its limit. The limit of the 4th stage. 1,100 years later, Lin Feng would not only be able to fight 1 against 3, he would even be able to fight 1 against 10 blood flea beast overlords. 10,000 annihilation. It was a destructive move. He gathered all his strength and blasted out with the saber. It was as if the sky was breaking. Amidst the violent vibrations, the saber's end mastery realm was 100% unleashed. The terrifying attack combined with the explosive power of the source of the Holy Land and the enhancement of the terrain, At this moment, Lin Feng could be said to be invincible. Boom, boom, boom. The airflow dispersed. Lin Feng's chest felt heavy as if he had been struck by lightning. The power of the attack was so strong that even he almost couldn't withstand it, let alone the blood python lords. Roar! Wu-ao! Roars and cries of pain sounded one after another. The horde of blood python beast lords were completely stunned by this attack. Who would have thought that the humans they were encircling would suddenly unleash such a terrifying attack? In an instant, many of them were killed or injured. The losses were heavy. Bang! With the help of the reaction force, Lin Feng broke the barrier and escaped. The entire process was flawless. The blood python lords didn't expect that the human could escape from such an inescapable trap. It was too unbelievable. Roar! Boom! The blood python lords and commanders chased after him, their faces filled with fear. If the king knew that they had allowed this human to escape, they would die. The consequences of their actions would be dire. They had to kill him. Chapter 2079. Lin Feng shuttled through the ever-changing dark matter space. The path to the entrance of the Black Forbidden Land appeared clearly in his mind. He had hunted here for 300 years, so he had already figured out the path to the Black Forbidden Land, including the rules of the dark matter. He would leave as fast as he could. With his current strength, it wouldn't be difficult for him to kill tens of thousands of blood python commanders and hundreds of blood python lords in a few hundred years. It would be a great harvest, much more than what he had hunted here for 300 years. However, it was too dangerous. He had nothing to worry about before, but now the blood python beast king was eyeing him covetously. The longer he stayed, the more dangerous it would be. If he stayed in the Black Forbidden Land, he would expose his position completely, and the blood python beast king would definitely arrive soon. Moreover, he had already obtained 6 supreme blood python horns, so the value of high-grade blood python horns had greatly decreased. It wasn't worth it to spend another few hundred years. They might not expect me to leave the Black Forbidden Land directly, so they will definitely search here for a while. Lin Feng knew very well that with the intelligence of the blood python lords, they wouldn't be able to chase him out of the Black Forbidden Land. The space here was constantly changing, so searching for someone was like searching for a needle in a haystack. As long as he could leave immediately, he would be able to shake off the tens of thousands of pursuers. Since the blood python lords are guarding the Black Forbidden Land, then the Wild Forbidden Land is probably the same. Just these 2 places alone have gathered half of the blood python lord's forces, so the other places of the blood python lair's defenses are naturally empty. Lin Feng was extremely fast. Even though the dark matter was constantly changing space, he could always change his direction at the first moment. It was as if he was moving in a straight line in the shape of a snake. Even though the space was constantly changing, his target didn't change. He was getting closer and closer to the entrance. There wasn't a single blood python lord behind him. Lin Feng was the first to come out, so he grasped the timing perfectly. The other blood python lords were already a beat behind him, and this moment was constantly magnified in the dark matter space. The space was distorted, the distance was increased, and even the position was changed. Even if everyone's target was the entrance, the blood python lords wouldn't be able to catch up to Lin Feng, not to mention the other blood python lords. They were probably at a loss, searching the Black Forbidden Land without knowing what was going on. Whoosh! In just a few days, Lin Feng left the Forbidden Black Land. Although they had encountered blood python beast commanders, they had only encountered the blood python beast commanders that had been roaming around the Forbidden Black Grounds, and not the ones that had been guarding the ancient palace. The entire process was uneventful. Good. Lin Feng revealed a smile, very satisfied. From the appearance of so many blood-devouring beasts in the ancient palace, he knew that it would not be easy to leave the blood-devouring lair. Everything was difficult at the beginning, but at least he had passed the first hurdle. There's still the most dangerous stage. Lin Feng's heart trembled. Since he couldn't find the blood-maned Beast King in the Forbidden Blackland, he was most likely guarding the entrance of the blood-maned Beast King's lair. As long as the blood-maned Beast King wasn't too stupid, this method could be considered the safest, because he could ensure that he would not leave the Blood Swamp's lair. What was the best plan? The blood-maned Beast King only has one entrance. If the blood-maned Beast King is guarding there, I won't be able to leave, but… Lin Feng still had a trace of luck in his heart. Perhaps his estimation was wrong, and the blood-maned Beast King wasn't at the entrance. But he knew that the possibility of this was very small. Two methods. Either I lure him away, or I take his attacks head-on and force my way through the entrance. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. The success rate of the second method was infinitely close to zero. The strength of a God Realm expert was already very strong, not to mention the blood-maned Beast King was a special lifeform, a battle-type God Realm expert. His strength was probably even more terrifying than a normal God Realm expert. In addition, this was the blood-maned Beast King's lair, his territory. The blood-maned Beast King had all the advantages. If he wanted to force his way through, he would be courting death. So, there was only one method. How should I lure him away? Lin Feng frowned slightly. He couldn't think of a good idea at the moment. First of all, he couldn't risk his life. As long as the blood-maned Beast King was watching him, he wouldn't be able to go anywhere. But if he didn't show up, how could he lure him away? The blood-maned Beast King wasn't a fool. If you wanted him to leave, he would leave obediently. No matter how stupid he was, he knew that guarding the entrance was foolproof. Let's go take a look around the entrance first. Lin Feng pursed his lips. Although he couldn't really get close to the entrance, he should be able to judge from the layout of the cave's defenses and the number of blood-maned beasts. He couldn't miss out on any possibility. If the blood-maned Beast King really wasn't at the entrance of the blood-maned Beast King's lair, or if something important happened that caused him to leave or temporarily leave, wouldn't he be able to leave? But soon, Lin Feng's only hope of luck was shattered. The entire entrance of the cave was impregnable. There wasn't a single blood-maned beast commander. There were hundreds of blood-maned beast lords. Their battle formation was vast and majestic. Every blood-maned beast commander was respectfully prostrating, like a human subject bowing to the emperor. This scene didn't require a sixth sense to be able to judge clearly. At the entrance of the cave, the blood-maned Beast King was waiting for him. Shua! Lin Feng's figure disappeared in a flash. He didn't linger. The closer he got to the entrance, the more dangerous it was. After all, this was the territory of the blood-maned beast. He didn't know if the blood-maned Beast King had any special methods. If the blood-maned Beast King sensed his presence, then there wouldn't be any hope left. But now, at least there was a way. Heaven never bars one's way. I'll definitely find a way out. Lin Feng went deeper into the lair from the entrance. He quickly regained his composure and calmed down. Since the blood-maned Beast King was at the entrance of the cave, it meant that there was no longer any threat in the lair. Kill. Lin Feng's eyes revealed an ominous glint. Since he had already been exposed, he might as well blow things up. Directly go deep into the lair and turn it upside down. Lin Feng was very decisive. In a situation where there was no other way, this was the best way he could do it. First, kill the chicken to warn the monkey. He would directly establish his power and provoke the blood-maned Beast King. Next, he would use it as a way to hone his blade skills and his own strength. The process of killing could also train his blade and increase his battle strength. Finally, it wouldn't be bad to get some blood-maned beast horns. Who knows, I might even get some treasures. Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry. While refining the supreme blood-maned beast horns, he went deeper into the lair and prepared for the worst. He could train and cultivate in the lair. Refining one supreme blood-maned beast horn after another would allow his strength to increase steadily. When he was confident, he would fight the blood-maned Beast King again. However, this method was rather time-consuming. Who knows, maybe I'll be lucky and find a second way out? Lin Feng smiled optimistically. Chapter 2080. Boom, boom, boom. Within the blood python lair, Lin Feng unleashed a massacre, completely unrestrained. His secret battle with the blood python beast king had gone from the dark to the light. Since he couldn't avoid it, he might as well reveal it completely. If they wanted to capture him, they would have to leave the lair and personally capture him. Otherwise, with just these blood python beast lords, they still weren't qualified. Chi. Lin Feng's eyes turned blood-red. His comprehension of the dark devil Tao was already extremely deep. The first blood python horn he refined contained 100,000 origins of the dark devil Tao. The dark devil Tao was the most talented of the 6 Taos of darkness, so he started refining the dark devil Tao. Moreover, compared to the other 5 great Taos of darkness, the dark devil Tao increased his basic strength the most. Entering the dark devil state was like burning one's blood essence. His attack, defense, and speed would all increase greatly. As for the side effects, Lin Feng was almost completely immune. Let's see if he's willing to. Lin Feng wasn't sure if the blood python beast king would come in to kill him, but he had to try. Perhaps the blood python beast king cherished his clan and couldn't bear to see the blood python beasts die tragically in the lair, so he might enter. But the chances weren't high. I'll just treat it as training my saber arts. Lin Feng was once again immersed in the realm of saber arts. He had stayed in the saber's consummate realm for a long time. Rising from 99% to 100% wasn't an epiphany, but a natural process. Lin Feng knew how much effort he had put into it. His effort wouldn't go to waste. The longer he stayed in the saber's consummate realm, the more he comprehended, and the more likely it was for him to break through and reach the peak of the heavenly Tao of saber. Peak of the heavenly Tao. The standard combat power level of a deity expert. The higher the level of life, the easier it was to comprehend the realm. For a deity expert, the peak of the heavenly Tao was hard to comprehend, but for a deity expert, it wasn't hard. Basically, the top 10 experts on the Origin Awakener list were all at the peak of the heavenly Tao. And this was the huge gap between a deity expert and a deity expert. I can break through. Lin Feng was very confident. He had an inheritance. To a powerhouse, an inheritance was extremely useful. It was just like a signboard, clearly indicating the direction, which path to take and how to take it. The peak of the heavenly Tao was as such. Lin Feng knew very well that the 10,000 obscuring heavenly blade was not an ultimate move at all. Instead, it was a set of guiding saber techniques, a set of saber techniques that assisted in comprehending one's realm. With Ancestor Wangan's strength, it was not to the extent of leaving behind such an unorthodox saber art. Cultivating the 10,000 obscuring heavenly blade was to build a foundation. Mastering all 5 moves, reaching the pinnacle of the heavenly Tao of saber, it was within reach. I just need to practice and practice more. When you practice to the extreme, a breakthrough will naturally occur. Lin Feng was very calm. However, the blood monkey race was not calm. A huge commotion was stirred up. It was a blatant massacre. One after another, no matter if it was an ordinary blood python, a blood python commander, or a blood python lord, they all died tragically at the hands of that human, Li Feng. The blood python lair was in a state of panic. Although the blood succubi respected the blood succubus beast king very much, they didn't have high intelligence. It was the nature of beasts to be afraid of the strong. The blood succubus beast king, Devon, who was far away at the entrance of the lair, quickly learned of this news. However, he didn't have much of a reaction. He continued to recuperate and bide his time. You want to lure me away? Human, you are not stupid, but don't think that I, Devon, am that stupid. Those ants, kill as many as you want. Devon sneered. The blood monkey race was cold-blooded and had a weak sense of community. Furthermore, with Devon's strength, he wouldn't care about the lives of those ants. If they couldn't even stop a human, it was useless even if they didn't die. You stole the ancestors' supreme blood python horn and still want to leave? Stop dreaming. It was a battle of patience. Lin Feng obviously couldn't compare to the blood succubus beast king. It wasn't that he was impatient, but that there was a time limit. He only had 3,000 years left. However, the blood succubus beast king Devon didn't have a time limit. Even if it was 300,000 years, or 30 million years, the blood succubus beast king could wait. 300 years. In another 300 years or so, I will be able to completely refine this supreme blood python horn and comprehend all the 100,000 source connections of the path of dark demon, entering the fourth stage of great perfection. Even if I can't condense the law all and break through to the 100,000 source realm. At the very least, my path of dark demon will reach the peak limit. My basic abilities will increase in all aspects, and my battle strength will increase by 50%. If my blade art can improve after 300 years, my chances will be even greater. It was very difficult. However, he had to prepare for the worst. For Lin Feng, 300 years was still enough. Since the blood succubus beast king didn't fall for it, he could only do it step by step. After 300 years, he would refine the supreme blood python horn and increase his battle strength by 50%. If his blade art improved, or if he broke through to the 100,000 source realm, he would have a greater chance. He couldn't defeat the blood succubus beast king, but he might be able to save his life. He just needed to leave, not kill the blood succubus beast king. The difficulty was reduced by a lot. But the blood succubus lair is too big. Lin Feng frowned slightly. He estimated that he wouldn't be able to reach the middle section of the blood succubus lair in 300 years. Adding on the fact that he didn't know the way, if he wanted to fight, it would be pretty good if he could make it a third of the way. If he only wanted to train his battle strength, it wouldn't matter. However, if he wanted to enter the deepest part of the blood succubus lair, it would definitely be impossible. And the efficiency of finding a needle in a haystack to train my battle strength like this is too low. Lin Feng nodded slightly and directly rushed back. He clearly had such good resources, so why not use them? Return to the forbidden Black Land. The area where the dark matter space changed was a natural training ground. There were tens of thousands of blood succubus commanders and several hundred blood succubus lords, all of whom were frantically searching for him. Previously, he was afraid of the blood succubus beast king and didn't want to kill there, but it was different now. It was very obvious that the blood succubus beast king was very cautious. He didn't even want to take the risk of exposing his position, so he was determined to wait for him at the entrance. Since that was the case, then he might as well be straightforward. Since he would be exposed either way, he might as well spread out. Whoosh! Lin Feng headed straight for the forbidden Black Land. There, he would be able to improve his training to the best. Moreover, this was only a part of it. From the entrance of the blood succubus lair to the deepest part of the royal palace, it would take at least 1,000 years. Lin Feng still had some basic information about the blood succubus lair. But if I sneak in from the forbidden Black Land and go through the blood mud abyss, I can reach the royal palace in at most 100 years. That's more than enough time. Moreover, I can also make a trip to the real sacred palace to see if I missed any treasures. Lin Feng smiled. He was in a pretty good mood. Since the blood succubus beast king wasn't chasing after him, then he would simply come back and catch him off guard. Chapter 2081. The tables had turned. Lin Feng turned back and returned to the forbidden Black Land. The blood frogs that were searching for Lin Feng in the dark matter space had no idea that their prey had wandered around outside. When he returned, it was clear that he had a purpose in mind. Boom! Boom! The unique dark matter space gave Lin Feng unparalleled freedom. He could fight without fear and not worry about being surrounded by blood frogs. With his current strength, He was not afraid of a blood frogs in a one-on-one fight. However, if more than 10 blood frogs attacked together, it would be difficult to resist. If he was surrounded by dozens of blood frogs, it would be disastrous. Fortunately, there was no need to worry. Start from scratch and comprehend the thousand obscurity heavenly blade again. I'll comprehend it again with 100% of the saber's almighty realm and master it. Lin Feng's goal was clear: to break through the saber's almighty realm. Although his life rating was not high enough, Lin Feng still had a precise path to break through to the peak of the saber realm with the guidance of the myriad heavenly saber and the fact that he had been immersed in the saber's all-mastery realm for a long time. He just needed to follow this path and keep going. It was a massacre. Lin Feng was not in a hurry to return to the ancient palace. It was very dangerous to return to the ancient palace and cross the blood-colored mud to reach the sacred palace. The ancient palace in the forbidden Black Land was different from the dark matter space outside. There were no special waves, and the space would not change. It would be troublesome if he was surrounded. He could defeat the blood frogs the first time, but it did not mean he could do it a second time. The safest way was to kill until he broke even. In this unique dark matter area, he could eliminate more than 80% of the blood frogs, especially the blood frogs. Then, even if the remaining blood frogs gathered, they would not be a threat to him. To Lin Feng, treasure hunting was secondary. Training was the most important. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As Lin Feng refined the sovereign blood centipede horn, he comprehended the saber technique at the same time. He nurtured himself with battle, cultivating in the midst of battle. The blood forged the black centipede. The peak fourth stage dark demonic patterns gave Lin Feng sufficient support. 1,100 years ago, he was barely able to kill a blood flea beast overlord in a 1-on-3 battle. Now, even 1 against 5 would be a piece of cake. Boom, boom, boom. The 10,000 obscuring heavenly blades slashed down, and the black python swept through the entire army. In the blink of an eye, 5 blood python beast lords were killed. Blood mist spread everywhere, and the surrounding blood python beast lords were all horrified. Even though there were dozens of them, they didn't dare to approach Lin Feng. Boom. In the next moment, Lin Feng's radiant wings unfurled and black viper swept through the area once more, directly killing dozens of bloodsuckers. It's been 100 years, and we've killed 200 bloodsucker lords. Many of the remaining ones are actually in the dark matter space. It's very difficult to find them. Now, the efficiency has decreased a lot. Lin Feng made a decision. He headed towards the ancient palace. Efficiency was linked to time. To him, time was of the essence. The dark matter space was huge and constantly changing. After 100 years of killing, more than half of the blood python beasts had died. However, it would take at least 100 years to increase from 50 to 80%, and another 100 years to increase from 80 to 90%. It was the same for the 300 years of killing. In the beginning, it was easy because there were so many of them. No matter where he went, he would bump into them. However, as the number of blood python beasts decreased, the efficiency would decrease. Lin Feng naturally didn't plan to spend another 300 years here because it was meaningless. Although these blood python beast lords were strong, they couldn't stimulate his warrior heart. It would be difficult for him to take the most important step in the saber's all-conquering realm. Without life-threatening experience, he was still lacking. Enter the ancient palace. Lin Feng didn't want to pass through the ancient palace and enter the blood quagmire. There were more than 40% of the blood python beasts left. This combat strength was enough to threaten his life in the ancient palace. Before entering the blood quagmire, he had to ensure that he was in a safe environment. 15, 18, 20. 23 in total. The moment Lin Feng stepped into the ancient palace, he had already calculated the number of blood python beast lords. As for the blood python beast commanders, there were still hundreds of them. However, they were no threat to him. He wouldn't care even if there were thousands of them, let alone hundreds. 23 of them. I'll kill them all in no time. Lin Feng released his aura and soon lured the blood python beast lords out of the ancient palace. 1 against 23. It seemed difficult, but in fact, it was simple. Near the edge of the dark matter space, Lin Feng left after killing 7 of them. He didn't fight the 23 blood python beast lords head-on. Instead, he wandered around outside for 10 days and came back to kill another 7. The cycle repeated itself. Although there were a few more blood python beast lords in the ancient palace, the outcome was already decided. After going back and forth for the 4th time, Lin Feng cleared the entire ancient palace. Once again, all the blood python beasts were killed. More than 60%. Lin Feng still didn't enter the blood quagmire, even though it seemed safe now. The remaining 40% was still a ticking time bomb. Judging from the situation in the past 100 days, both the blood python beast lords and commanders will return here from time to time. Lin Feng smiled and gently stroked his battle saber black dragon. The blood-red battle intent was clear, and the black dragon was roaring. Rather than fumbling around in the dark matter space, it would be more efficient to wait here. Sure enough, it was just as Lin Feng had expected. After occupying the ancient palace, the blood python beasts began to walk into the trap. In less than 10 years, the number of blood python beast lords he killed increased by 33. One wave after another. It was as if Lin Feng was harvesting straw. One by one, the blood devourers died in his hands. The lack of information made the blood python beasts like headless flies. They didn't know where the enemy was. Occasionally, they would return to the ancient palace, but they would die tragically. 50 years later. It's about time. Lin Feng heaved a sigh of relief. Using the path of oblivion, he destroyed the corpse of a blood python beast lord and put away his battle saber black dragon. By now, more than 80% of the blood python beast lords had been killed. Even if the remaining 20% were to gather together and ambush him, he was confident that he could escape and save his life. Then, there was no need to waste any more time. Whoosh! Lin Feng once again entered the blood quagmire. Without the support of the dark light ball, the blood quagmire turned from a thick wall to a thin membrane. It would break at the slightest touch. And as time passed, the energy of the blood quagmire would decrease. It took him 20 years to return. Now I can reach the underground in 10 years at most. And the return time will be even faster. Lin Feng smiled. The last time he entered the sacred land, he left in a hurry and only took 6 blood python horns. This time he finally had time to slowly search for treasures. Chapter 2082. Passing through the bloody mud, Lin Feng returned to the underground sacred land. He was familiar with the place. As he passed through this wonderful space once more, he didn't feel nervous at this moment because Lin Feng was very clearly aware that the strongest existence in the entire bloodworm lair, the bloodworm beast king, was waiting for him at the entrance of the cave. No matter how he looked at it, he wouldn't come down. Moreover, he didn't know that he would be so daring as to return to the sacred land. The blood python beasts always lacked intelligence. I'm back. Lin Feng stood in front of the sacred palace, his eyes shining as he looked at the 6 blood python beast king that had died countless eras ago. They were just sealed by a dark power, so they still had some charm. But now that they had lost the sovereign blood python horn on their foreheads, they were like dragons without eyes. Their aura and charm were less than 10%. No matter how strong an existence is, when their time is up, they can only fall. On a wandering planet, I'll always be limited by the supreme laws. I can't even break through to the master of the black domain. Lin Feng sighed. Wandering planets had the most abundant spatial energy, suppressing other types of energy. Plus, they were limited by the laws of a wandering planet, so they couldn't surpass the black domain master. Of course, they couldn't surpass the black domain master in the Milky Way. Just like an island, it could at most bear a weight of 100 million tons. If it bore a weight of 1 billion tons, the island would definitely collapse. But it was different in the real universe. Not only could it bear a weight of 1 billion tons, it could even bear 10 billion tons or 100 billion tons. Sure enough, there isn't one. Standing in front of the sacred palace for a moment, Lin Feng's aura had already swept through the entire sacred palace. It was better to be careful. Not only was the blood python beast king not here, but there wasn't even a blood python horde lord. The entire palace was empty, like a treasury with its door wide open, waiting for him to take it. Swish! Lin Feng's figure flashed, and he quickly arrived at the treasury. It was too easy to find. The sacred palace had almost no hiding spots, not even defensive measures. This was normal because there was no need for any defenses. Outstanding true treasure. Lin Feng casually picked one up and inspected it before putting it away. Then, he picked up a huge golden scale that contained an astonishing amount of energy. What a powerful energy aura! What kind of special life form does this scale belong to? Ugh, a strange cube. This is a seed? Egg. Lin Feng collected the treasures one by one. Many of them were unheard of. After all, this was the blood-maned Beast King's lair. The treasures collected by the blood-maned Beast King were at least superior true treasures. Most of them were specialties of the turbulent void. It was normal that he had never seen them before. Although he didn't recognize them, there was no harm in collecting them all. At the very least, he could go out and exchange for it. It would be a waste not to take it. This is? Suddenly, Lin Feng picked up a storage ring and probed it with his consciousness. The weak protection was broken directly. Lin Feng scanned the treasures in the storage ring. His eyes widened slightly as he laughed involuntarily. The storage ring of the Destiny race. This armor is... Lin Feng immediately took out a familiar armor from the pile of treasures. It was the armor of the Destiny race expert, Wu Jitian, whom he had met face to face that day. As for the treasures and secret manuals in the storage ring in his hand, they all belonged to the Destiny race. He could almost conclude that it was Wu Jitian. Wu Jitian is too unlucky. He died here? Lin Feng laughed involuntarily. He still wanted to compete with him outside, but he didn't expect that he had already fallen. Seems like he was killed by the blood-maned Beast King. It wasn't hard to tell. With Wu Jitian's strength, even he wasn't sure he could beat him. The Destiny race's life-saving ability had always been tyrannical. The blood-maned Beast King alone couldn't kill Wu Jitian, who was ranked 13th on the Origin Awakening list. The only possibility for his death was the blood-maned Beast King. Powerful. Lin Feng sighed. Wu Jitian, who was similar in strength to him, was killed by the blood-maned Beast King just like that. His battle strength wasn't necessarily stronger than Wu Jitian's. If he met the blood-maned Beast King, he wouldn't have a good time. There's still time. Lin Feng waited for the supreme blood-maned horn to be completely refined. 300 years would allow his strength to increase by another step. As for the bargaining chip, every bit counted. Speaking of which, the blood-maned Beast King killed Wu Jitian. Isn't he afraid of the soul attack from his death? Lin Feng's eyes brightened as he thought. If that was true, then the blood-maned Beast King was too terrifying. His body was strong, his battle strength was tyrannical, and he didn't fear soul attack. Let's take it one step at a time. Lin Feng couldn't think of a solution for now. He sighed, then put away all the treasures and left. Although he could guess the blood-maned Beast King's strength, seeing Wu Jitian's death with his own eyes still made his heart tremble. Fortunately, Lin Feng's will was strong, and he recovered not long after leaving the sacred palace. Wu Jitian was Wu Jitian. He was him. 140 years. Lin Feng's eyes were bright, and his fighting spirit was high. After leaving the sacred palace, Lin Feng began to look for the path to the imperial palace. The entire blood-maned lair was like a huge fan. Although the top part was boundless and one might not be able to walk through it in 1,000 years, the bottom part wasn't that big and one could go anywhere from one point. The forbidden black land, the forbidden wild land, Lin Feng had already found them. From these two areas, it wasn't hard to deduce the location of the third forbidden area. After spending only 10 years, Lin Feng successfully found the Imperial Palace, which was the passage Wu Jitian used to enter. Since the passage existed, it was easy. Although there were some blood-maned beast kings guarding the Imperial Palace, their numbers were much fewer than the forbidden Black Land. Lin Feng swept through them without much effort, taking the entire Imperial Palace for himself. There are more treasures here than in the Sacred Palace. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. In terms of value, they might not be comparable to the strange treasures in the Sacred Palace, but in terms of quantity, the treasures in the Imperial Palace were obviously better for him to improve his strength. For example, the fruits of heaven and earth. These are all fruits of heaven and earth from the chaotic void. Other than a few from the Forbidden Lands, I haven't eaten any of them. Lin Feng's eyes lit up, and he was extremely happy. After increasing his life level, his body's constitution still hadn't reached its peak, and there was still a lot of room for improvement. These fruits of heaven and earth could help him fill that gap. The foundation was very important. When one's foundation was strong enough, it could affect one's battle strength. After refining the supreme blood-maned horn of the Tao of Dark Demon, my cultivation of the Tao of Dark Demon can strengthen all my foundations. Now they complement each other. Lin Feng smiled with satisfaction. Even if his saber art didn't have a breakthrough, with these fruits of heaven and earth and the supreme blood-maned horn, after 100 years, his battle strength would increase by quite a bit. At that time, my chances will be greater. Lin Feng clenched his fists, his eyes filled with battle intent and anticipation. Chapter 2083. After sweeping away all the treasures in the palace, Lin Feng returned to the underground palace. The most dangerous place was the safest place. Moreover, the underground palace had the most comfortable cultivation environment. It was the most suitable place to cultivate the Tao of Darkness. Moreover, in terms of danger, where was the safest place in the Blood Marmoset's lair? At the very least, there would be no other Blood Marmosets in the palace. That was because the Blood Marmoset Beast King was intimidating. What's missing from the 10,000 Heavenly Blade? In the palace, Lin Feng absorbed the fruits of heaven and earth, refined the Blood Marmoset Supreme Horn, and honed his saber skills. I can't be more familiar with all 5 moves. However, the entire 10,000 Heavenly Blade still seems to contain a lot of power. It's hard to truly unleash all of it. What is it? Lin Feng couldn't figure it out. In fact, he wasn't the only one who was stuck at this level. However, unlike other experts, Lin Feng had the 10,000 Heavenly Blade, which was a complete set of guiding saber skills. There were traces of cultivation. However, it was still difficult to break through the shackles. Practice again. Lin Feng didn't have any other way. As the saying goes, reading a book 100 times will reveal its meaning. It was the same for practicing the saber. In a situation where there was no other way, he could only practice the saber over and over again. He could copy the saber skills, figure out the concept, and comprehend the peak of the saber. Time passed year after year. 80%. Lin Feng clenched his fists, his eyes shining. There were a lot of fruits of heaven and earth in the palace. Even with his current physical strength, it took him nearly 100 years to absorb all of them. His body was now 80% full. Now, my physical strength is comparable to a deity expert. Even the Blood Marmoset Beast King is probably only a little stronger than me. Lin Feng was very satisfied. His foundation was strong. Every time his life level increased, his physical strength would leap to the extreme. Coupled with the bloodline, his physical strength was definitely top-notch. It had become a huge advantage. Soon, I can refine the first Blood Marmoset Supreme Horn. Lin Feng was looking forward to it. In the dark demon state, the strength of his body would increase by quite a bit. At that time, his body would be comparable to the blood-maned beast king. Perhaps his life level is higher, and his innate talents are stronger. But as long as his body isn't in a disadvantageous position, the blood-maned beast king's biggest advantage will be erased. Then, he will have a greater chance to save his life. Lin Feng had never thought of defeating blood-maned beast king. This was somewhat unrealistic. The blood-maned beast king could easily kill Wu Jitian. Even if he could completely refine the supreme blood man-eater horn, he wouldn't be able to do it. At most, he would be able to kill it. Easily killing and killing were two different things. The difference in strength between a deity realm expert and a deity realm expert was like heaven and earth. Moreover, blood-maned beast king wasn't an ordinary god spirit realm expert. As he was a special life form, his innate endowment was much stronger. As he had entered the god spirit realm, he was one of the best. Time passed quickly. To a martial artist, 100 years was just the snap of a finger. The refinement of the sovereign blood-devouring horn was also nearing its end. All the connections of 100,000 Genesis points had been poured into his mind. Although it was like swallowing dates in one gulp, the comprehension imprinted in his genes was still real. He was able to understand every single connection. He could also clearly feel the resonance between every source point. Originally, he had already completely analyzed the 100,000 source point. It was like grasping all the characters in a language. Connecting them was like combining these characters one by one to form a complete language. The memory imprinted in his mind was deep and direct. This was the value of the supreme blood man-eater horn. Let alone the fact that Lin Feng had already reached the third stage of great perfection, even if he was only at the first stage of great perfection, refining the supreme blood man-eater horn would allow him to directly reach the fourth stage of great perfection. Of course, no pain, no gain. This kind of comprehension was like rote memorization. It lacked an important point. Relying on it to condense the law all and reach the 100,000 origin realm experts was harder than ascending to the heavens. It was nowhere near as solid as what he was doing right now. All the comprehension was stored in his mind. The supreme blood man-eater horn had already lost all its color and luster. It was like a piece of dead wood without any presence of energy. The dense inscriptions on it had all dimmed, and its energy had vanished. Lin Feng closed his eyes and remained motionless. This was the most important thing for him right now. If he could comprehend it, he would directly rise to a whole new level. If he could not comprehend it, it would be even more difficult to condense the law all and reach the 100,000 origin realm. There was not much hope. Even though Lin Feng's talent was extraordinary and he had the legacy in hand, it was different from reaching the 100,000 origin realm in the legacy. The method of memorizing the myriad heaven path was like 100 rivers flowing into the sea. He had to comprehend every single detail before finally mastering it. Right now, it was like he had taken a shortcut, saving a huge step. It was exactly because he had saved this step that he had forcefully memorized all the connections of the 100,000 source points. Although he had reached the level of comprehension, he had not caught up. He could only rely on luck to condense the law all. One step at a time. Lin Feng had never thought about condensing the law all and directly reaching the 100,000 origin realm. Since he had chosen to take the shortcut, he was obviously mentally prepared. The most important thing right now was to master it. He had to refine all the mysteries within the sovereign blood owl horn for his own use and go from the third to the fourth, which was also the final stage. The limit of great perfection. ZZZ blood-red specks of light covered Lin Feng's body, as if the 100,000 source points had reappeared. Every single one of the 100,000 source points was tightly connected to each other, as if they were a part of his body. Pa. His bones were changing and his cells were in a state of excitement. Lin Feng's eyes suddenly opened, revealing a sliver of loftiness. Astonishing demonic power erupted with a bang. His comprehension of the Tao had reached a whole new level, and his body had undergone a whole new change. If it was the way of the divine of light, this attack would naturally counter the darkness. If it was the way of heavy darkness, this attack would possess the power of 1,000 caddies, containing extreme gravity. This was the comprehension of the Tao. The limit of great perfection. The limit of great perfection in the way of the dark demon directly gave the cultivator an even stronger dark demon realm, a state of slaughter. It was like going berserk. In this realm, one's blood would burn wildly, and their attack, defense, and speed would all increase drastically, raising their battle prowess from the very foundation. What great power! Although Lin Feng was in the extreme dark devil realm, his thoughts were extremely clear, completely unaffected by any interference. My condition is excellent. Lin Feng was faintly pleasantly surprised. In this state, not only would he be able to fight, but he would also be very excited to comprehend and cultivate. For him, who had cultivated in this state for a long time, it was as if his blood was burning and his thoughts were surging. Suddenly, he had a flash of inspiration. The law all. This is the law all. Why didn't I think of it? The moment he entered the dark demon realm, Lin Feng had a new comprehension. Chapter 2084. What is a law all? It is a kind of form, a kind of conception, a kind of vague comprehension. Like a blade, it can be long or short, thin or long, sharp or blunt. Lin Feng was enlightened. His blood-red eyes flashed. His gaze focused on the supreme being blood main horn that had lost its color. His right hand flashed, and another supreme being blood main horn appeared. Flashing with a golden light, this supreme being blood main horn possessed a powerful life force. The complex engravings on it were connected layer by layer, and the 100,000 Genesis points were clearly arranged, forming a perfect whole. This was the law all. The supreme being blood main horn is a form of the law all. It is the innate ability of the blood main beasts, the law of darkness, a natural evolution of the 100,000 Genesis points. Lin Feng's thoughts were completely clear. Since he had refined the supreme being blood main horn, then the simplest and most direct way to form the law all was to follow the pattern and use the law of darkness to form a supreme being blood main horn with the 100,000 Genesis points. When I succeed, I will break through to the great circle realm. The day I obtain 100,000 Genesis points. The memories in his mind were incomparably clear. When he had just refined the supreme being blood main horn, Lin Feng remembered every detail of the engravings. It was like the path he had walked, every step was extremely firm. Everything was difficult at the beginning. Forming the law all was also the same. In the first few years, Lin Feng was still unable to make sense of it. Only after he had eliminated the great circle realm and calmed down did he gradually form a rough shape, like building block. After entering the state, it became much simpler. So it's like this. Yes, this is the connection of 100,000 Genesis points. I understand. Every stroke brought about a new understanding. The steps that he had originally skipped slowly appeared as he drew them, turning them into the most direct comprehension. Lin Feng enjoyed this state very much. 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, the all of law in his mind gradually took shape like a pyramid. The formation of the all of law gave Lin Feng the most direct epiphany, allowing him to comprehend every form of the great perfection stage. In the inheritance, it was 100 rivers returning to the sea. As for refining the sovereign blood owl horn, it was a one-sided process. There was more than one path to the great Tao. But no matter which path he took, the final destination was the same. After comprehending the great perfection, one would step into 100,000 origins. A true divine spirit realm expert. Hush! Lin Feng's entire body began to emit rays of blood-red light. The law alls formed within his body were perfect and flawless, containing the ultimate power of the dark devil Tao. His 100,000 essences were linked together, containing the profound mysteries of the heavenly Taos. At the great perfection stage, the dark devil Tao was only a single point. At the 100,000 essences level, one would have formed an all of laws. Just the power of the way of the dark demon had increased by more than 10 times, not to mention the changes that came with it. The Tao of the dark devil at the perfected level was like a lake. The 100,000 source level path of the dark demon was in a vast ocean. The area was larger and the area was wider. The power of the dark devil Tao was only a fundamental difference. An even greater difference came from secret techniques, from the use of the dark devil Tao, which increased the fundamental difference by hundreds or thousands of times. 100,000 origins could be combined at will. The law all had endless transformations, and it could create an endless number of secret technique. Ordinary ones were comparable to the best secret techniques at the perfected level, and their power was equivalent to an entire lake. A slightly stronger secret art could have an area of 10 or 100 lakes. Slightly stronger ones could have the power of 1,000 or 10,000 lakes. The ultimate ones could even have the power of an entire ocean. Stepping into the 100,000 essences level could be said to be stepping into a whole new level of the Tao of laws. It was the end, but at the same time, it was also a starting point. Boom! Lin Feng's power erupted, and his eyes flashed. With the law all activated, his attacks in the dark devil state were like explosive strikes, their power greatly increased, and the entire sacred palace shook. Finally, I'm close to the strength of a deity. Here, with the geographical advantage, the power of my dark demon Tao and Heiting has been greatly enhanced. My battle prowess is comparable to that of a god. Lin Feng felt the brand new power, and his blood-red eyes flashed with a cold fighting spirit. He finally had the ability to fight against the blood marmoset beast king. Although he was still unable to defeat him, it was enough to fight. I don't need to defeat him, I only need to be able to withstand one of his attacks, and survive. As long as he left the blood marmoset's lair, where could he not go in the vast blood marmoset land? In terms of spatial comprehension, in terms of escaping. As long as he left the cave, he had countless methods to shake off the blood marmoset beast king. It's time to meet him. Lin Feng sighed and stood up. Although the Thousand Heaven Path contained many dark devil Tao secret techniques, and all of them were extremely tyrannical secret techniques in the universe, but because they were too tyrannical, it was extremely difficult to comprehend them. He did not have the time to spend hundreds or even thousands of years to comprehend a secret technique. Time was tight. It had been more than 300 years, it was time to leave. Blood Marmoset's lair, Black Forbidden Land. A bunch of idiots. Forcing me here, ha ha. Awesome. Killing frenzy. A demon race expert with a skeleton body was crazily slaughtering. In this constantly changing dark matter space, he was like a fish in water, killing countless blood marmoset commanders, and even many blood marmoset lords. The second in command of Extreme Fatal, Master Chu, previously, when the blood marmoset's lair was in chaos, he was forced to retreat to the lair's entrance. Who would have thought that his luck would be so bad that he would be chased by 3 blood marmoset lords, and suffer a great defeat? With no way out, Master Chu had no choice but to step into the Forbidden Land recorded in the records. Black Forbidden Land. Unexpectedly, this Forbidden Land recorded in the records was like a fish in water to him. The records are not always accurate. Warriors who cultivate the Tao of Darkness, especially those who are proficient in the Tao of Dark Matter, can easily control the Black Forbidden Land. Although the blood marmoset will be stronger here, I've also become stronger. Master Chu was crazily slaughtering, and he enjoyed it very much. Here, he could take advantage of the geographical advantage. Not only did he not have to worry about being surrounded, but he could also kill many blood marmoset lords and obtain countless blood marmoset horns. It was a blessing in disguise. Suddenly, Master Chu's eyes lit up. What's that? The center of the black forbidden land. As if he had discovered a new continent, Master Chu's breathing became extremely rapid. He was careful, but he could not hide his excitement. A great opportunity! Awesome! The Blood Marmoset's lair riot actually helped me. Haha, I'm rich this time. As soon as he stepped into the ancient palace area, Master Chu's eyes lit up, and his body trembled with excitement. He had hit the jackpot. Chapter 2085. Hiss, hiss. Master Chu's hands formed into claws, and his eagle-like eyes shot out blood-red rays of light. The dark aura spread and tore apart a few blood python beast commanders' corpses. A few blood succubus commanders were no match for him. Looks like it's very safe. There's not even a blood python beast lord. It's indeed a treasure land. Master Chu grinned, revealing his sinister teeth. Blood splattered everywhere, as though he was the master of the dark, forbidden land. He could summon clouds and rain with a flip of his hand. Soon, he swept through the area. The treasure must be inside. Master Chu walked slowly towards the ancient palace, his eyes filled with excitement. There was only one passage in such a huge area, so it was easy to find. In the spacious passage, there was not a single blood python beast. Master Chu frowned slightly, and a sense of uneasiness crept into his heart. He slowed down and became more cautious. One step, one step. It was as though he had stepped into an unknown abyss of hell. Suddenly, who is it? Master Chu was shocked, his heart pounding. In front, there seemed to be a black figure blocking his path. His huge wings seemed to have covered the entire passage, but there was no aura, and he could not sense his presence at all. As he got closer, the face gradually became clearer, and even his aura could be vaguely felt. 9-star expert. Human youth. Dark aura. Never seen before. You. Master Chu's eyes widened, and all the information combined to form a blurry figure, but he was extremely certain. You are the Demonic Blade King. The Demonic Blade King who killed my second brother, Magic Flute. Master Chu's eyes were bloodshot, and he was almost roaring. Master Chu. Lin Feng looked at Master Chu, and he had already recognized him. Even when Master Chu entered the ancient palace area, he had already sensed his aura and presence. So, he purposely waited for him here. Ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Master Chu laughed instead of getting angry. His unbridled laughter showed how carefree he was in his heart. I've been looking for you for thousands of years. I thought you had already died in the blood centipede's lair. I didn't expect you to still be alive. I was lucky, Lin Feng said. Really? Master Chu laughed coldly, and a huge amount of dark aura mixed with the aura of the dark demon instantly filled the entire passageway. But your luck has run out after meeting me. Is that so? Lin Feng said. Master Chu squinted his eyes, not concealing his murderous aura. When you killed Magic Flute, you should have thought that doing so would incite a fatal rage, or did you think that we would not find out? You're too naive, little guy. Lin Feng smiled faintly. I'm really lucky today. Not only did I find the treasure trove of the blood-devouring beasts, I even found you, you idiot. Master Chu looked at Lin Feng with disdain, his gaze cold. If you want to hide, I can't do anything to you. But since I've met you, blame yourself for being too stupid and arrogant. The treasure of the blood-devouring beasts is not something an idiot like you can obtain. Go and die. Master Chu did not put Lin Feng in his eyes at all. His majestic aura enveloped the entire place, as though he was an emperor. But in an instant, the atmosphere in the passageway changed. A terrifying dark demon aura descended, directly suppressing Master Chu's dark demon aura. It was like a huge mountain pressing down on a small mountain. It was a completely destructive suppression. In the air, the blood-colored dark demon aura formed a huge blood centipede horn. It was ferocious. Under the cover of this huge blood centipede horn, Master Chu seemed to become incomparably small, as though he was in an endless blood-colored hell. The terrifying binding pressure firmly bound him, and even moving an inch was a luxury. This. Master Chu's expression changed. He was a little stunned. Impossible. We are both at the absolute perfection realm, so why is my dark demon Tao? Master Chu was shocked. Instantly, his eyes were filled with endless shock. His lips were slightly pale. Could it be impossible? This is absolutely impossible. Even among the top 10 experts of the Origin Awakening list, only 2 have surpassed the absolute perfection realm. He is just a human brat that has just left the mountain. Absolutely impossible! Master Chu roared in fury. Boom! The wild air directly dispersed the binding pressure around his body. After all, he was a super expert ranked 18th on the Origin Awakening list, and he had the advantage of being in a favorable location. Master Chu's strength was not to be trifled with. Here, he could display the battle strength of a peak divine realm expert. Pretending to be mysterious, go and die. Master Chu's skeletal face twisted savagely, his figure like a ghost. In a flash, he went straight for Lin Feng, but the figure in front of him suddenly disappeared. The next instant, rumble! An illusory giant horn smashed over. This was the condensed energy of extreme darkness. The explosive power was far greater than Master Chu's dark demon Tao. Just this collision was enough to make Master Chu vomit blood and retreat. His expression changed greatly. Too terrifying. His wrist was completely numb. Master Chu was dumbfounded, unable to believe it. You came too late. Lin Feng's voice sounded, reverberating through the tunnel. The black wings of warmth tore through space. Strands of spatial qi tore at Lin Feng's body. The black skeleton in his hand began to hum. Z. His eyes gradually turned blood red. The law all in his body became even more perfect. Mysterious inscriptions lit up, forming a perfect whole. When the dark demon Tao collided, Master Chu's was destroyed almost instantly. Impossible! It can't be 100,000 Origin Realm experts. Master Chu's eyes were filled with fear. However, the truth was right in front of him. The same dark demon Tao had a completely different power. After being amplified by the terrain, the difference was multiplied by several times. It was a complete crushing. Whoosh! Master Chu activated his strongest defense. His entire body was covered in black light, forming an egg-shaped barrier. His body dodged continuously. But at this moment, a huge black dragon swooped down from the void. It opened its bloody mouth, and terrifying blade intent seemed to slice him into pieces. He was completely unable to resist. It was an extremely powerful blade. Qi! The light and the color of blood blossomed almost instantly. The black round shield around Master Yan's body was instantly torn to pieces. The sturdy excellent true treasure armor forcefully withstood the blow, but the powerful impact had already injured Master Yan quite badly. Too terrifying! At this moment, Master Chu's mind was filled with shock and fear. He never thought that the demonic Blade King's strength would be so terrifying. It was much stronger than he had expected. He had already done his best, but in front of the demonic Blade King, he was completely powerless. They were not on the same level at all. Run! This was Master Chu's most direct reaction. However, it was already impossible for him to escape. A ray of light flashed across the sky like a bolt of lightning. It was so fast and violent that it seemed as if the sky was crying. Qi! Master Chu was directly cleaved in two. Blood splattered everywhere. Myriad obscuring heavenly blade, tears of chaos. Chapter 2086. Master Chu had indeed come late. If he had come earlier, Lin Feng, who had killed Magic Flute, was far from being his opponent. If he had come earlier, he could have left, and would not have bumped into Lin Feng in the ancient palace. If he had come earlier, many things would have been different. Unfortunately, he had come at the right time. God, he was destined to die. I bumped into the spearhead myself. Lin Feng was very calm. His strength had indeed increased by a lot, but it was not to the point where he could completely suppress Master Chu. After all, he was a super expert ranked 18th on the Origin Awakening list. The geographical advantage and cultivation level completely suppressed him. Inside the Forbidden Blackland, with the help of the geographical advantage, it was true that Lord Yen could raise his strength from a high-level High God Realm expert to a peak High God Realm expert, but Lin Feng could raise his strength to a High God Realm expert. The difference in strength was very different. The cultivation level was the most direct suppression. Both were of the Dark Demon Dao, there was no fuss. It was a narrow path where the brave would win. If Lin Feng was only at the 4th stage of absolute perfection, the difference between them would not be obvious. But now that Lin Feng had reached the 100,000 Origin Realm, just the level of law all was enough to completely suppress Master Chu. There are quite a few treasures. Lin Feng looked through Master Chu's storage ring. Although he was not as rich as Wu Jitian, there were quite a few miscellaneous treasures. Adding on the 2 outstanding treasures, the total value was about half of Wu Jitian's wealth. Robbing is indeed the fastest way to get rich. Lin Feng smiled. Although that was the case, normal people would not do that. Offending a large faction was no joke. Just like how he had killed Magic Flute and Master Chu, it would be strange if Poison Rose did not go after him. That was a transcendent existence ranked 4th on the Origin Awakening list. With his current strength, even in the Forbidden Blackland, he was not Poison Rose's opponent, let alone outside. The difference in strength was like the difference between him and Master Chu, the difference was like heaven and earth. Killing one is an offense. Killing two is the same. Lin Feng didn't care. What was there to be afraid of? He had already offended both the Destiny race and the blood succubus beast. One more extreme fatality was nothing to him. Could it be that if someone came to kill you, you would be so cowardly as to let the tiger return to the mountain? Kill him first. Whatever happened after that, they could talk about it later. As expected of the second-in-command of Fatal Limit. He really has a lot of treasures. This is? Lin Feng's heart flickered. He quickly took out a strange white stone. The spiral patterns on the stone looked like a snail's shell. The shell contained a lot of space energy, and strange patterns were engraved on it. Déjà vu. He had never seen it before, but he had heard Yen Faoyang mention it before. Right. Danger teleportation command. This is the teleportation token to the Void Impasse. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he suddenly remembered. He had interacted with Yen Faoyang and Bai Kuang many times in the doomed impasse, so he knew a lot about the turbulent void. This included the Danger Teleportation Command. The Danger Teleportation Command only existed in the current Void Impasse. Like a one-time teleportation array, using the Danger Teleportation Command could directly enter the Void Impasse. Its main purpose was to make it easier for experts to enter again. Moreover, the Danger Teleportation Command could only be used in the current reincarnation. This pattern, if I'm not wrong, should be the Danger Teleportation Command to the Heavenly Meteorite Void Impasse. Lin Feng stared at the Danger Teleportation Command that looked like a snail's shell. Master Chu, what a timely reign. Lin Feng smiled. Thinking about it, Master Chu must have obtained the Danger Teleportation Command in the Heavenly Meteorite Void Impasse. Perhaps because he wanted to kill Huang Xiaolong, he temporarily left the Heavenly Meteorite Void Impasse. Let's give it a try. Lin Feng tried to activate the Danger Teleportation Command. In an instant, a white light flashed, and a strong spatial fluctuation appeared. But in an instant it distorted and turned into nothingness. Puh. It won't work. Lin Feng shook his head. The principle of the Danger Teleportation Command is to use spatial positioning to establish a stable spatial channel. The spatial laws here are suppressed by the law of darkness and cannot be stabilized. The moment the channel was established, it collapsed. Let's go out and try. Lin Feng immediately left the ancient palace. Stepping out of the forbidden black land, the dark energy decreased sharply. However, Lin Feng tried to activate the danger teleportation command again, but it still failed. There was an invisible force in the blood python layer that affected the space, making it difficult to establish a stable spatial channel in the entire area. Moreover, it was dangerous to do so. If the spatial channel was attacked or even destroyed during the teleportation process, he would be trapped in the spatial turbulence. If it was light, he would lose his way, and if it was heavy, he would be swallowed by the spatial turbulence. The safest way is to leave the blood python lair. After trying it twice, Lin Feng had already figured it out. It was not difficult to activate the danger teleportation command. He only needed to find a quiet and peaceful environment, activate it, and then establish a stable spatial channel to teleport. The blood python lair could not be used, because there was a mysterious and powerful force interfering. It was most likely the blood python lair's protection. However, leaving the blood python lair should not be a problem in other areas of the blood python lair. It saved me a lot of time. Lin Feng was very satisfied. To other experts, this danger teleportation command might not even be as valuable as an elite true treasure. However, to him, it was more valuable than an excellent true treasure. After all, even if he left the blood python lair, he would still be in a daze if he had to find the way to other danger lands, not to mention the meteorite turbulence lands. This danger teleportation medallion just so happened to solve his urgent problem. As long as I can escape the blood python beast king's pursuit, even if it's only for a short while, I can leave, Lin Feng thought to himself. Once he entered the meteorite turbulence lands, he would not have to worry about the blood python beast king's revenge. Phew, Lin Feng exhaled softly. No matter what, he still had to face what he had to face. The battle at the entrance of the blood python lair was unavoidable. He would have to risk his life and fight to the death. All right. Now that my strength has improved greatly, I can test it on the blood python beast king. I can't win against him, but if he wants to kill me, it won't be easy. Lin Feng really wanted to know how far away he was from the top 10 of the Origin Awakening list, the God Realm experts. He was about to enter the meteorite turbulence lands. At that time, he would encounter more God Realm experts. It would be good for him to assess himself first. Whoosh! Without any distractions, Lin Feng went straight to the entrance of the blood python lair. His body had been strengthened to 80%, and he had refined the supreme blood python horn. His Tao of Dark Demon had reached the Origin Realm, and he had condensed the law all. The black python, a top-grade excellent true treasure, was comparable to a pinnacle true treasure under the enhancement of the environment. In the face of the upcoming fierce battle, Lin Feng had already made all the preparations. This will be the most difficult battle since I entered the turbulence space. Lin Feng's eyes were bright, and his fighting spirit was rising. Victory is not an option. Chapter 2087. At the entrance of the blood-sucking lair, hundreds of blood-sucking beast lords knelt respectfully and listened to the orders of their king, Devon. The golden horn pointed to the sky, and the engravings were complicated. Devon, the blood-sucking beast king, was closing his eyes to recover. The death soul shock of the destined race was no joke. Even if it was a special life form, it was still heavily injured. Tyvan vaguely knew about the actions of the Slayer Li Feng in the blood-maned lair. After all, this was his home. However, he knew that humans were cunning and not easy to deal with. He was afraid that he would fall into the trap of luring the tiger away from the mountain. He would deal with all changes by sticking to the status quo. He wasn't as smart as his brother, Devon, but he was very reliable. Even if all the blood-sucking beasts died, as long as the lair was still there, it would take tens of thousands of eras for them to reproduce and return to their peak. However, he couldn't lose the blood-sucking horn of his ancestor. It wasn't just the pride and dignity of the blood-sucking beasts, it was also a priceless treasure. When the blood-sucking beast lords reached a bottleneck, they would enter the sacred palace to comprehend the blood-sucking horn. Even if they didn't cultivate the same Tao of darkness, it would still be of great help. The birth of the first blood-sucking beast king was extremely difficult. However, the second and the third could be found. In their era, there were even 2 blood-sucking beast king. This was all because of the blood-sucking horn. No matter how much trouble you make, there's only one way to leave. I'd like to see what else you can do. Devon was very patient. He didn't care even if he had to wait 100 or 1,000 eras, let alone 100 or 1,000 years. Come out and you'll die. Chi. A beam of light flew in the blood-sucking lair. The huge pitch-black wings seemed to shatter space. The endless darkness was like a gentle breeze, making it easier to fly. Not only did it not have the slightest bit of resistance, it even turned into pure energy, riding the wind and breaking the waves. Lin Feng rushed to the entrance of the blood-sucking lair. His battle intent had reached its peak. Within his body, all of the dark demonic Tao flickered with golden light, just like the blood centipede horn of the sovereign. Dense runes condensed into one, forming a perfect whole. 100,000 sources were linked together. Every move he made was a dark magic law. If he was at the Great Perfection Realm, he would still need to convert the dark energy into the dark devil Tao. Whether it was attacking or using the laws, it was the same. However, things were different now. His attacks were faster, more extreme, and more powerful. Bang! Even Hating was glowing with a bloody light as if he was possessed by a devil. In his dark devil form, Hating was even more ferocious. He was like a devil, but a weapon was still a weapon. The one in control was still Lin Feng. Lin Feng was a devil, so naturally, his weapon was also a devil. If Lin Feng didn't go crazy, the weapon madness would only increase its power. Blood-maned Beast King. Lin Feng's eyes were dyed with a bloody light. He had already sensed the enormous aura in front of him. With hundreds of blood python beast lords gathered together, there was no way out if he tried to force his way through. However, he had no other choice. There was no shortcut. There was only one way. Attack. With the blade in his hand, with his strength, he had to open a bloody path. As long as he could leave the blood python lair and escape the pursuit of the blood-maned beast king, he could use the danger zone teleportation token to leave this place and go to the meteorite turbulence danger zone. Great Brahma! Lin Feng directly used his domain. When he was outnumbered, the domain's effect would be maximized. A 5-colored brilliance shrouded the area. Halos appeared in the Brahma world. The moment they restrained the blood python beast lords, a clear route was formed in Lin Feng's mind. He shuttled through the encirclement of the blood python beast lords. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The wings of warmth caused the space to tremble and distort. Lin Feng sped toward the cave entrance. The blood python beast lords roared angrily. Their attacks exploded in an instant. There were almost no blind spots. They covered the entire domain. Boom! Rumble! Great Brahma shattered in an instant. Facing the impact of absolute power, even the domain of a deity expert couldn't withstand it. Lin Feng didn't think of blocking it. Great Brahma was enough for now. At this moment, Lin Feng had already entered the middle section. However, the real danger had just begun. It was like entering the enemy's territory and facing the furious attacks of all the enemies. This time, he didn't have the natural shield of the blood python beast lords. He could only rely on his strength. Mandarin Duck's tie. Lin Feng attacked with his blade. Among the 5 moves of the 10,000 obscuring heavenly blade, the strongest defensive move was like a pair of mandarin ducks dancing. The speed was very slow, but it was like a water mirror with ripples. The blade moves were continuous, borrowing force from force without any blind spots. Relying on the inertia and the impact of the attacks, Lin Feng rushed toward the cave entrance. Pung! 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 Although the defense of the blade moves was strong, the attacks of the blood python beast lords were too many. Even if they were diverted and weakened, their power still couldn't be underestimated. Even a deity expert would be injured if he took it head-on. Lin Feng was no exception. However, with the double protection of the Mo Shui boat and the warm wings, as well as his strong body and recovery ability, Lin Feng endured this wave of attacks. In a short time, he moved from the middle section to the back of the middle section. He could almost see the entrance of the blood python lair. Roar! Roar! The blood python beast lords were even more furious. They, who had always been able to do whatever they wanted in the land of the blood python, couldn't even hold back a mere human. The king was at the entrance of the lair, staring at them. Boom! Chi! The attacks of the blood python beast lords were even crazier. Lin Feng's blade moves were even faster. His body emitted streaks of bloody light as he entered the dark demon state. Although he didn't want to reveal all his strength so quickly, he had no other choice. If he was seriously injured here, he wouldn't have any chance when he reached the entrance of the lair. Soon, Lin Feng's target was very clear. It was the entrance of the cave. After leaving the cave, the dark energy would be greatly reduced. The space ripples would become stronger, and the chances of escaping would be much higher. However, there were dozens of attacks landing on his body at every moment. No matter how strong the defense of the Mandarin Duck Tai was, and how strong the dark demon state was, Lin Feng couldn't take it anymore. His chest felt heavy and he spat out blood. Ants could bite an elephant to death. 1-on-1, even 1 against 10, Lin Feng was confident that he could kill the blood python beast lords. However, facing hundreds of blood python beast lords, even a godly expert wouldn't be able to do anything. Boom! Lin Feng took on several heavy attacks. Voila! With the warm wings covering his body and the Mo Shui boat protecting him, Lin Feng used his injuries to push himself to the entrance of the lair. Even though his body was covered, he could still see a trace of light. In just an instant, that trace of light was covered. Like a dark cloud shrouding the cave, the huge body carried boundless dark energy and forcibly blocked the cave entrance, blocking the way out. It also blocked Lin Feng's hope. Die, human! Tiwan's appearance was extremely ferocious. Chapter 2088. Tiwan had been waiting for a very long time. Finally, the villain Li Feng had arrived. As he had expected, this villain had many tricks up his sleeve. He had turned the blood-maned lair upside down, but in the end, he was unable to escape from Tiwan's grasp. The most effective way to deal with all changes was to wait for the rabbit to appear by a tree stump. Now, the rabbit had finally arrived. Chi! Tiwan directly swung out a claw. It was incomparably sharp. The mysterious inscriptions on the golden horn flickered, as if it was the embodiment of law. The blood-maned beast king's talent was outstanding. They did not need to comprehend it. As long as they reached this level, they would naturally reach the origin realm. This was the same for many special lifeforms, such as the bloodthirsty tree king. However, the blood-maned beast king's attack was even more terrifying. Purring! The windswept boat was directly shattered. The wings of warmth trembled violently. Even though Lin Feng was in the absolute protection, he still suffered a huge impact. It was only a single claw. However, its power had already surpassed the combined attack of several blood-maned beast kings. Pfft! Lin Feng spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes had already turned completely red. Intense pain attacked his heart, causing him to fall into madness. The blood-maned beast king's attack was within his calculations. He could not escape or avoid it. However, this attack was something he could endure. Clang! The instant Lin Feng retreated, Hating turned into countless rays of light. The saber move that he had been holding back for so long finally erupted. The sharp saber energy streaked across with resplendent light, seemingly shattering space. It was extremely fast. Chi! Lin Feng's defensive move directly blocked the blood-maned Beast King's second attack. Using offense as defense, Lin Feng's body came to a sudden stop. In an instant, he turned the tables and attacked the blood-maned Beast King. His blood-red eyes erupted with a shockingly powerful physique. He was not inferior to the blood-maned Beast King at all. There was no retreat. He could only attack and attack again. When enemies met on a narrow path, the brave would emerge victorious. After breaking the encirclement, Lin Feng finally met the blood-maned Beast King face to face. This battle couldn't be avoided, and there was no need to avoid it. Rather than facing hundreds of blood python beast lords, Lin Feng was more willing to face the blood python Beast King. 1 against 1, the chances were much higher than 1 against hundreds. Boundless weight. Lin Feng's saber moves became more powerful, and gravity forces formed naturally. He unleashed 100% of his ultimate saber mastery realm. The law all in his body resonated with the source of the Holy Land, and his power was greatly enhanced. This move was comparable to the power of a deity. It was even stronger than the blood-maned Beast King's claw. Even though there were several hundred blood-mammy Beast Kings eyeing them covetously, there was no need to pay attention to them. With the blood-mammy Beast King's arrogance, he naturally wouldn't allow them to interfere in the battle. Humph! The blood-maned Beast King's cold snort shook the entire blood-maned lair. The golden horn flashed brightly. With the same 100,000 origin realm, coupled with the instinctive attack, the blood-maned Beast King's claw contained the will of heaven, as if it was the secret technique itself. The dark energy gathered, and the blood-maned Beast King's attack power was boundless. However, the moment he clashed with Lin Feng, the blood-maned Beast King's expression changed. He felt a huge impact. Even though he had pushed back the human, he didn't have an overwhelming advantage. What? He's even stronger than that guy from the Destiny race. Instantly, Tuan stopped underestimating him. With one move, he already knew that his opponent's strength wasn't weak. The supreme blood-maned horn shone brightly, and streams of pure energy covered his entire body. Tuan, who had always been reliable, was the same even in battle. Bloodline eruption. In an instant, Tuan's strength surged, and his aura became even more powerful. Blood light condensed into scales, condensing 100,000 origin crystals. Every part of his body contained 100,000 origin mysteries. As a special life form, the blood-maned beast's innate ability was naturally unique. This is troublesome. Lin Feng's expression was solemn. The situation was even worse than he had expected. The blood-maned Beast King's strength was also much stronger than he had expected. Although his intelligence wasn't high, his battle experience was steady, and he didn't show any flaws. He blocked the entrance of the cave first, and cut off the way out. His attacks were also partly defensive, and he left a lot of trump cards. He didn't underestimate his opponent at all, and he went all out after just a slight test. He clearly knew his own goal. Very troublesome. If their strengths were similar, this kind of opponent would be easier to defeat. But when there was a difference in strength, this kind of opponent would be very troublesome. They were like a huge millstone, exhausting your strength bit by bit and grinding you into powder. Go all out. Lin Feng pushed his strength to the limit. The fourth stage of the Dark Devil pattern was extremely bright, and the secret patterns formed a perfect resonance with the law all in his body. Under the blood color, the connection with the Black Ting was extremely tight, and the sacred land source madly released energy. 10,000 obscuring heavenly blade. Only death awaited him if he defended. Only by attacking and having an unyielding will would he have a chance of winning. Boom. 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 Lin Feng fought with his life on the line. Right now, he had no choice but to fight. Although his offensive power wasn't as good as the blood-maned Beast King, his will and fighting spirit made up for it, and the 10,000 obscuring heavenly blade was even better. Even if Tuan was stronger and had a higher cultivation, he was still very passive. If he couldn't take the initiative, it would be very difficult to create true killing intent. Lin Feng was very clear about this, and he grasped Tuan's personality. Since the opponent was conservative and cared about his reputation, then he would use this point to fight. Maybe he would have a chance of survival. Boom, 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 boom. Even the sturdy blood python lair was shattered by the huge impact. Much of it was destroyed. The surrounding blood python beast lords all retreated to one side. Their eyes were filled with fear, not daring to approach. This kind of battle was far beyond their strength. Even if they wanted to interfere, they couldn't. Damn it. This human is really hard to deal with. Tuan felt a headache. He originally thought that this would be an easy battle. With his strength, he had the advantage and could finish off his opponent in 2 or 3 moves. But who would have thought that his bloodline wasn't enough, and his opponent seemed to have endless energy, attacking continuously. Logically speaking, his energy should have been used up, but it wasn't. Although Tuan's strength didn't have an overwhelming advantage, it wasn't too far off. He was confident that he could defeat his opponent, but he didn't have the initiative, and the continuous fighting caused his old injuries to flare up. His soul, which had been injured by the soul shock of death, was already aching. Fighting would also use up energy. Especially when his bloodline was activated, his soul would also be activated, and his energy would be depleted. Although it was small, it couldn't be underestimated. Especially when his soul was injured, it would become bigger and bigger. Tuan's eyes flashed fiercely and he roared furiously. Originally, he still cared about his reputation and didn't want to kill this human, especially in front of so many of his clansmen. But if this continued, the injuries to his soul would get worse, and it would take him hundreds of eras to recover. Die! Tuan's face twisted, and he looked extremely ferocious. Chapter 2089. Tuan had erupted. Tuan, who was already a deity, had the amplification of the terrain. His strength was terrifying. Previously, Lin Feng had suppressed Master Chu in the Dark Demon Dao. Now Tuan was the same. They were both at the origin realm, but one of them had formed his talent and cultivated for a long time. One of them had just stepped in. Not to mention, Tuan had completely unleashed his bloodline. Not only did his strength reach the origin realm, he was also the embodiment of darkness. Bloodline ignition. The scales on his body were blood red. Tuan had condensed a shocking amount of darkness energy. He was determined to kill Lin Feng at all costs. Even if he had to exhaust a large amount of energy, he would not hesitate. If this dragged on, his soul would be damaged even more. The recovery of the soul was much slower than the recovery of the body. Furthermore, the strength of the human in front of him had already made him feel threatened. To prevent any accidents from happening, he had to cut the Gordian knot and get rid of this human as soon as possible. Taking back the sovereign blood python horn was the most important thing. Purring! Purring! Tuan erupted, instantly taking back the initiative of the battle. His strength was above Lin Feng in all aspects. After igniting his bloodline, he was invincible. In the blood python lair, his strength had increased by more than several times. Lin Feng was covered in blood. Previously, he was barely able to match Tuan, but now, he was completely at a disadvantage. If it were not for the fact that his dark demon Dao had reached the origin realm, he would have been killed by Tuan already. However, as Tuan's strength continued to increase, it became more and more difficult to resist. He could not win by just relying on defense. I still underestimated the blood python beast king's strength. Lin Feng gritted his teeth. He had already unleashed the black python's strength to the limit. Even the source of the sacred land and the law all were pushed to their limit. Right now, he could even win against the top 10 experts of the Origin Awakener ranking. However, Tuan was too strong. Lin Feng already had the strength of a deity, and the blood python lair had increased his battle prowess by several times. Even if Lin Feng executed the 10,000 obscuring heavenly blade Mandarin duck tie flawlessly, he still could not reverse the absolute suppression in terms of strength. There were two paths. One was to run backward, and the other was to charge forward. Lin Feng instantly made his decision because he had no other choice. Behind him were hundreds of bloodworm lords, and it was impossible for him to break through again. Not to mention, there was also a terrifying bloodworm beast king. Although it seemed like there were many opportunities to escape, it was actually a dead end. He could only charge forward. As long as I can get out of the cave, I'll be able to use my Tao of space, especially the wings of warmth. Lin Feng had his own trump card, but he had no confidence in using it here. The spatial energy was completely suppressed by the dark energy, and he could only use 10% of his warm wings. However, as long as he exited the cave, he would be able to unleash at least 80% of his power. Canoe ram! A huge, pitch-black wooden boat instantly flew out of Lin Feng's hand and rapidly expanded. Gathering his soul power, Lin Feng used his outstanding true treasure, the Moshua boat, to open a path. Clang! Hating went straight for the blood-maned beast king and did his best to tie him down. 10,000 annihilation. With the 100% realm of blades end and the strongest move of the 10,000 annihilation heavenly blade, Lin Feng went all out and pushed his power to the limit. Beads of blood burst out from his wounds, adding to his injuries, but he didn't care. He wanted to open a path. Dong! Lin Feng's head shook. The blood-maned beast King Tuan caught the blade with his claws and swept his tail whip. His movement was incomparably fast, and he directly swept the Moshua boat away. With a rumbling sound, the Moshua boat crashed into the wall of the blood-maned lair, and rocks flew everywhere. Go! Lin Feng didn't care about the threat of the blood-maned beast king's attack. Following the Moshua boat, he rushed towards the cave entrance again. Trying to escape? Stop dreaming! The blood-maned beast King Tuan's eyes were red. With a roar, he bent his body, and the golden horn on his forehead collided with the Moshua boat. It was like two huge meteorites colliding, and the power was earth-shattering. Bang! Lin Feng was sent flying along with the Moshua boat. The blood-maned beast King Tuan suffered a huge impact, and he wasn't in a good condition either. He was injured with a groan, and he was enraged. He, the blood-maned beast king, was injured by a little human. Hua, the golden aurora shrouded, and the supreme blood-maned horn was incomparably bright. The pitch-black light turned into endless darkness, and covered the entire blood-maned lair, turning it into hell. Rumble! Rumble! The earth shook and the cave entrance collapsed. The blood-maned beast King Tuan's face was ferocious, and his power was fully released. Lin Feng was forced into a desperate situation. Seeing the cave entrance collapse, and blocking the only way out, the Moshua boat's attack collapsed. The hundreds of blood-maned beast kings behind him were eyeing him covetously, and he was in a situation of true death. The extreme excitement in the dark demon state and the extreme calmness in the depths of his soul merged strangely. At this moment, many vivid images appeared in his mind, like a movie. It was the 10,000 obscuring heavenly blade that appeared when his bloodline broke through. A total of 5 10,000 obscuring heavenly blade moves appeared in front of him again. Move after move, the ancestor's figure perfectly merged with the moves, and the concept complemented each other, forming a perfect whole. Again and again. In just an instant, the 10,000 obscuring heavenly blade had repeated tens of thousands of times in his mind. After thousands of years of hard work, Lin Feng already knew the entire set of blade moves by heart. Every detail, every control of power, he grasped it perfectly, and his blade's all-mastery had reached 100% perfection. He was just one step away from the peak. Opportunity. In this life-and-death situation, under the extreme state of the dark demon, Lin Feng's thoughts seemed to have suddenly cleared up. A shackle that had sealed him suddenly disappeared. The 5 moves of the 10,000 obscuring heavenly blade merged perfectly, transforming into the body of his ancestor. Boom! 5 moves combined into one. Splitting the sky, splitting the shackles, splitting the blades, all mastery. This move reached the peak. Boom! It was the same 10,000 obscuring heavenly blade, but with a different power. This step caused Lin Feng to transform and enter a new level. The 5 moves of the 10,000 obscuring heavenly blade seemed to have transformed into 5 completely different moves, as if they had evolved. How magical! Lin Feng could not believe it. It was a set of guiding blade moves, but at different levels it was completely different. In the blade's all-mastery level, the 10,000 obscuring heavenly blade only guided blade moves and helped one understand the concept of blade moves. But at the peak of the blade, the 10,000 obscuring heavenly blade instantly transformed into a blade move with unlimited power, and the hidden mysteries surged out like a tide. The power from before was not even 1/10 of what it was now. Needless to say, there was also an increase in the level. What's going on? T1 was even more shocked than Lin Feng. He was originally confident of victory, but the human's attack power inexplicably skyrocketed, and his strength directly rose to a new level. Damn it! Breakthrough in battle. T1 gritted his teeth, and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. His blood was burning, and he became even crazier. So what if you have a breakthrough? No matter how strong you are, you can forget about escaping from the blood python's lair. Today is the day you die. Chapter 2090. Absolute Strength, Absolute Confidence. Blood Marmoset Beast King T1 had absolute confidence because he was a god-level expert, and this was the Blood Marmoset's lair. An ant breaking through was just becoming a slightly stronger ant. It was nothing. He still had the advantage. Boom. 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 Blood Marmoset Beast King T1 was strong. Not only was he not affected by the attack, he became even more brutal. His combat style was steady and imposing, so he naturally wouldn't be caught off guard by a sudden change in the situation. T1 himself had experienced many battles and was very experienced. They were evenly matched. So strong. Lin Feng finally saw Blood Marmoset Beast King T1's strength. Even though he had broken through during the battle and reached the peak of the Blade Realm, he could only barely match T1. However, his injuries were too severe. If he had fought in such a state from the start, he might not have lost. But now the loss of blood had caused his strength to drop. The chances of him breaking through were getting smaller and smaller. This Blood Marmoset Beast King did not care about anything. Even if he was heavily injured, he would still block his path and not give him any chance. Such an opponent was extremely difficult to deal with. Injured. Lin Feng's heart jumped. That's right. If he was injured, Blood Marmoset Beast King should also be injured. He just killed Wu Jitian not long ago. Even if he is a special life form or a god-level expert, it is impossible for him to be unharmed after being injured by Wu Jitian's soul attack. Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. Who was Wu Jitian? He was ranked 13th on the Origin Awakening list and was a high-level god-level expert. He was ranked 2nd in the Destiny race. How could he not pay a price for killing him? No wonder he used his full strength so quickly. He wanted to end the battle quickly to avoid adding more injuries to his soul. The moment Lin Feng and T1 clashed, golden light suddenly appeared around them. Sanskrit lines flashed and formed a huge bell. Dang, dang, clang. As the bell rang, Lin Feng's eyes brightened. The golden fan bell directly launched the soul attack. All the bell chimes gathered at one point, striking directly at the blood-maned Beast King. Tyvan was caught unprepared. The moment his sharp claws tore through Lin Feng's defense, he was shaken hard, as if he was dumbstruck. As expected, intense pain assaulted Lin Feng's heart. Lin Feng was severely injured by a single move. The armor was torn to shreds, and even the defense of the Wings of Warmth was shattered in an instant. However, the light in his eyes shone brightly. In an instant, his soul power was like a cannonball that blasted into Tuan's eyes and sea of consciousness. Lin Feng was incomparably crazy as he attacked recklessly. Boom! Devon was shocked by the golden fan bell. Instantly, he felt like his mind was pierced by tens of thousands of needles at the same time. The heart-wrenching pain made Devon scream hysterically. Pung! 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 The entire blood-maned Beast King's lair was about to collapse. The group of blood-maned Beast Kings were dumbfounded. They didn't know how to react. They had never seen their king like this. This kind of pain was like being skinned alive. Blood oozed out of his scales. Blood-maned Beast King's body trembled violently. His eyes were blood-red and lifeless. At this time, Lin Feng was not much better off. He was already heavily injured, and if he did not have the armor and warm wings to protect him, he would have been smashed to pieces. Coupled with the direct soul attack, just the recoil alone was enough to make him suffer. What he attacked was the soul of a God Realm warrior. Even if Lin Feng's soul was at a higher level, it was almost shattered by the soul attack. The pain he suffered wasn't any less than Tyvan's. Fortunately, he had the 10,000 origin mustard stone to protect his soul and nourish his energy. Whoosh! Lin Feng shot out like an arrow, heading straight for the blood-maned Beast King's lair. His will was on the verge of collapse. His body was bathed in blood. The intense pain gave Lin Feng an endless will to live. Black Skeleton turned into an extremely black light and broke through the shattered rocks in front of him. Rumble, the cave cracked open and a weak light appeared. Lin Feng used his unyielding fighting spirit to forcefully open up a path for himself. A path to leave. Hua! Lin Feng's figure flashed and disappeared. Inside the lair, Tyvan was bleeding from his 7 orifices. He had suffered an unprecedented injury. The group of blood-maned Beast Kings were dumbfounded. They couldn't react at all. Only after Lin Feng left did the blood-maned Beast Kings regain their senses. They were furious. The group of blood-maned Beast Kings hurriedly chased after Lin Feng. However, there was no trace of Lin Feng. Escape. After leaving the blood-maned Beast King's lair, where wasn't there a place to stay? However, Lin Feng's condition was extremely bad. His body was heavily injured, and his soul was also severely injured. His last attack had almost destroyed everything, so he couldn't gain any advantage. Fortunately, he had the 10,000 origin mustard stone, while the blood-maned Beast King didn't. As expected, Lin Feng clenched his teeth. Blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. Otherwise, he would have fainted already. If the blood-maned Beast King's soul wasn't injured, the golden Fane Bell alone wouldn't have been able to affect him. However, the blood-maned Beast King was affected. Even if it was only for 1/100th of a second or 1,000th of a second, it was enough to explain everything. His soul was injured. Therefore, even the elite true treasure, the golden Fan Bell, could affect him. Therefore, he dared to take the risk and launch a soul attack. Normally, such a soul attack was no different from suicide. After entering someone else's sea of consciousness, the power of the soul would be greatly weakened. The difference in strength didn't even matter. Fortunately, Lin Feng's gamble paid off. Unfortunately, I can't kill him. Lin Feng also wanted to take the chance to kill the blood-maned Beast King, but he couldn't. After the soul attack, his injuries weren't any lighter than the blood-maned Beast King's. His attack didn't even reach 10% of its peak. It was extremely difficult to break through the blood-maned Beast King's defense, not to mention the hundreds of blood-maned Beast Kings behind him. If he walked a little slower, he would die without a burial place. His soul is heavily injured. He will be unconscious for a while. Even if he chases after me, he will only see darkness. I don't have to worry about his threat during this time. The danger teleportation token flashed in Lin Feng's hand. The warm wings space shattered, and he escaped at his fastest speed. Behind him, there were countless blood-maned beast kings chasing after him. If he wanted to open a temporary passage and teleport away, he had to find a peaceful environment first. Run. The further he ran, the better. Lin Feng knew very well that the further he ran from the blood-maned beast kings, the fewer blood-maned beast kings chasing after him. The larger the area, the blood-maned beast kings would have to spread out to search for him. However, he couldn't hold on for long. His current injuries were even more serious than the blood-maned beast kings. Let's do it here. After 3 hours of escaping, Lin Feng had completely shaken off his pursuers. He escaped into a huge mountain, sealed all paths, and activated the danger teleportation token. Hua, a bright light flashed, and space energy gathered. In the void, a transparent passageway that was filled with extreme spatial laws had already appeared. Lin Feng gritted his teeth and directly stepped into it. Shua, his figure flashed. Chapter 2091. Meteorite Turbulent Flow Danger Zone. It was the oldest and largest void danger zone in the Void Turbulent Flow Danger Zone. It was located at the center of the Void Turbulent Flow Danger Zone and seemed to be connected to the universe. Because of this, meteorites would fall from the Meteorite Turbulent Flow Danger Zone at every moment, landing on this huge continent. What's more, countless meteorites from outer space would appear. Once, a race with a godly spirit realm expert was destroyed just like that, disappearing into thin air. But because of this, the Meteorite Turbulent Flow Danger Zone contained endless opportunities that came from the Void Turbulent Flow Danger Zone itself, from outer space, and so on. As long as one could survive here, one's strength would increase at the very least. Many experts had survived here in the Void Turbulent Flow Danger Zone before returning to Origin Awaken continent and becoming one of the top 10 experts on the Origin Awaken list. The mortality rate was extremely high, and 8-star experts had almost no chance of survival. Bang! Lin Feng fell heavily on the ground. He only had a weak consciousness left, but at least he was still awake. Opening his eyes tiredly, Lin Feng scanned his surroundings. It was desolate and boundless. Looking up, the sky was gray as if it was about to explode. The surrounding energy was extremely chaotic, but also very powerful. Reaching out his hand and feeling the surging elemental energy, Lin Feng revealed a weak smile. I escaped. Lin Feng exclaimed softly. The sky of the bloody migration zone was black and blood-red, but it was definitely not gray. The energy of the bloody migration zone was pure dark energy, so powerful that it could even suppress other elemental energies. However, although the energy here was powerful, it was composed of countless types of energy, not just dark energy. From the intensity of the energy, it could be confirmed. He had arrived at the Meteorite Turbulent Flow Danger Zone, the most mysterious and powerful void danger zone in the Void Turbulent Flow Danger Zone. As expected of the Meteorite Turbulent Flow Danger Zone, the intensity of this energy is too shocking. Lin Feng took a deep breath and felt the dark energy and light energy. The black whirlpool absorbed the spatial energy. Although the energy alone was not as powerful as the dark energy in the bloody migration zone, it was not far off. However, the overall energy was more than 10 times different. It's no wonder that so many experts are flocking to this place. Just cultivating here will yield twice the results with half the effort. Lin Feng struggled to get up. His body was still very weak, and his head was dizzy. If not for his willpower, he would have fainted long ago. Fainting here was no joke. He would become food for the ferocious beasts in minutes. Many of the mutated beasts and ferocious beasts here were special lifeforms. God-level experts were everywhere, and there were quite a number of God-level experts. Like the blood-maned Beast King and the Murderous Tree King, they were all here. Let's find a place to rest and recover some yuan qi. Lin Feng looked around. Although he had escaped from the blood python's lair, the threat in this place couldn't be underestimated. Without the blood python land's geographical advantage, although his strength had broken through, he was still severely injured. If he encountered another beast that was as strong as the blood-maned Beast King, he might not be able to escape. In the heavenly meteor turbulence danger zone, survival was the most important thing. My injuries are really serious. Lin Feng dragged his tired body and flew quickly. The warm wings disrupted space, and he was very careful. He had just arrived at the heavenly meteor turbulence danger zone, and everything was unknown, so he had to be cautious. This battle was worth it. Although he was covered in wounds, Lin Feng was very satisfied. He had been in the saber's consummate proficiency realm for a long time. The previous step from 99% to 100% was a natural step. The real breakthrough was the battle with the blood-maned Beast King. Not only did he break through the saber's consummate proficiency realm and peak at the peak of the saber, but he also cracked the mystery of the 10,000 obscuring heavenly saber. The 5 moves of the 10,000 obscuring heavenly saber were not just to guide the saber technique. Moreover, the 5 moves were combined into one. Under the peak state of the saber, there was an extremely powerful 6th move. It was the easiest to comprehend between life and death. When I recover my Yuan Qi and stabilize my realm, my combat strength can truly step into the god level. Lin Feng was very clear that to survive in this heavenly meteor turbulence danger zone, the strength of a god-level expert was the foundation. But to find secrets and opportunities, the strength of a god-level expert was indispensable. Here it is. Lin Feng quickly found a deep and serene valley. With a flash of his body, he entered the dense mountain forest. Although there were many ferocious beasts in the forest, this was only the outer region. There was no need to worry too much. Compared to the ferocious beasts, the human, demon, and monster experts with ulterior motives were the most terrifying. God-fallen world. Swoosh. Swoosh. 2 beautiful figures appeared at the border of the God-fallen world. Their bodies seemed to turn ethereal as they directly emerged from the God-fallen world. One of them was slightly taller and wore a long robe that seemed to turn into mist. Her aura was concealed. The other was wearing a neon green battle armor. She was a beauty that surpassed the heavens. Her small face reflected her clear facial features. It was Mystery and Luing. At this moment, the 2 women's faces were pale. Obviously, they had used up a lot of energy and their Yuan Qi was greatly damaged. Despicable! Luing gritted her teeth, her almond-shaped eyes filled with anger. Let's go. Mystery pulled Luing and quickly flew away. There were only 2 women. Patriarch Dong Huang and Sangya were nowhere to be seen. The moment the God-fallen world appeared, Mystery and Luing ran away at their fastest speed. Even though Luing was depressed, she could only swallow her anger. Both of them were seriously injured. They could barely use 1/3 of their strength. Obviously, there was more to it. They are too despicable. How dare they sneak attack us while we are fighting? Luing was so angry that her eyes were filled with tears. We have always been at odds with the Void Dragon tribe. Moreover, the God-fallen world is changing this time. Great opportunities are appearing frequently. The Void Dragon tribe will not be polite to us. Mystery said, we can only blame ourselves for being too careless. We have already taken precautions, but we did not expect them to be so determined. That's right. Killing us will not benefit them at all. Lu Ying's full chest rose and fell rapidly. How can it not benefit them? At least there will be fewer people fighting for the cake. Mystery said, moreover, the Void Dragon tribe and the Milky Way's human tribe have been at odds for a long time. They will not miss the chance to hit us when we are down. Then where are we going now, third sister? Luing bit her lips and held back her anger. I don't know. We will take one step at a time. Mystery's eyes were also a little empty. She did not know what to do. Sui Air sighed softly. No matter what, let's leave here first. Don't trouble the patriarch. Luing nodded. I hope the patriarch and the three of them are safe. Mystery's beautiful eyes looked into the distance. The patriarch is powerful. They were able to hurt the patriarch because he was protecting us. Now there is nothing to worry about. Even if the patriarch can't kill them, at least we can escape. Moreover, we have to go back and get the meteorite vortex. This time, even the God-fallen world has opened. This is a real great opportunity. After this reincarnation, whether the human tribe of the Milky Way will rise or fall depends on this. Chapter 2092. The forest was in a state of panic. A group of ferocious beasts wandered in the forest in fear, not daring to get close to the dark fog in the middle, as if something terrible was there. Among them, there was even a 9-star ferocious beast, the king of this forest. Whether it was vicious beasts or mutated beasts, they were all wild beasts in essence. They were extremely sensitive to danger. Their instincts told them that they could not approach the pitch-black mist. Lin Feng stood at the center of the mist. Strands of black energy seeped out from the demonic inscriptions on his body. The origin of the sacred land released an endless amount of powerful black energy. However, this was not dark energy that could be absorbed. Instead, it was dark demonic energy that possessed powerful offensive properties. The origin of the sacred land was no longer without an owner. Lin Feng refined the second sovereign blood main horn. He did not need any fruits of the world. There was no fruit of the world that could compare to the sovereign blood main horn. This was the accumulation of the sovereign blood main beast's most essential bloodline. Refining the sovereign blood main horn could strengthen him in all aspects. His body, mind, and soul were all rapidly recovering as he refined it. Although it took slightly longer than the fruits of the world, it was also a part of cultivation. Of the 6 paths of darkness, the way of the dark demons is the most bizarre. It increases my foundation the most. The way of annihilation has the most powerful offensive power. After comprehending 100,000 origins and condensing them into an all of laws, my attacks will possess the laws of annihilation. My offensive power will increase tremendously. Lin Feng was no longer unfamiliar with 100,000 origin realm experts. Once he understood, all would be clear. With the way of the dark demons as a precedent, Lin Feng was completely confident in condensing the other alls of laws from the 6 paths of darkness. This was because he did not need to comprehend them, nor did he need too much innate ability. He only needed to refine them and then use the inscriptions on the sovereign blood main horn to draw the same pattern. He would be able to condense a simple all of laws. Simple did not mean it was lacking. The great Tao was simple. Every single sovereign blood main horn was a manifestation of the essence of the mysteries of the world. He did not practice any secret technique. Even the simplest ones in the myriad heaven path were the crystallization of the blood and sweat of an extremely important figure in the universe. They were extremely powerful and difficult to grasp. Right now, what he lacked the most was time. No matter how high one's talent and comprehension ability were, cultivating a set of secret techniques would take thousands of years. It was not suitable for him to do so now. Refining the sovereign blood-devouring horn was much simpler. It only required slightly more than 300 years. Even if he added the time needed to condense the law all, it would only take him 400 years at most. Moreover, he would have to walk this path sooner or later. Every powerhouse had to go from great perfection to 100,000 origins. Refine and comprehend. In just a few short decades, Lin Feng's injuries had mostly recovered, including his soul, which was the most difficult to recover. Firstly, his soul was strong, and secondly, with the nourishment of the 10,000 origin mustard stone, it was naturally twice the result with half the effort. At this moment Tyvan, who was far away in the blood python's lair, wasn't so lucky. His soul was wounded again. Not to mention dozens of years, even dozens of eras might not be able to fully heal his soul. After recovering, Lin Feng began to refine his swordsmanship. the brand new 10,000 obscuring heavenly blade, the brand new peak of the blade, and the brand new sixth move. Everything had to start anew, and this would also be his capital to establish himself in the heavenly meteorite turbulence. After comprehending the 6 moves of the obscuring heavenly blade and reaching the pinnacle of the blade, his combat prowess would be comparable to a god-level powerhouse. No wonder I always felt that the obscuring heavenly blade wasn't simple. It seemed to contain some secret, but I couldn't find it. So it's because my realm wasn't high enough. Only by reaching the pinnacle of the blade can one truly unleash the mysteries of the obscuring heavenly blade. Different realms, different swordsmanship. It's clearly the same set of swordsmanship, but it's so strange. My ancestor is indeed extraordinary. Lin Feng sighed. His ancestor's strength was far beyond his imagination. However, my ancestor mentioned in the 10,000 Heaven Path that the true ultimate move has to be created by oneself. No matter how strong someone else's move is, it's still someone else's move. Learning from others is the main thing, and cultivation is secondary. Only by creating one's own move will it be the most suitable for one's heart, the most suitable for one's body, and the most perfect move. Lin Feng nodded. Previously, he still didn't fully understand. However, as he reached the pinnacle of the Blade Realm, he completely understood. The pinnacle of the Blade Realm was like a node. No matter what swordsmanship, it could erupt with terrifying power, but at the same time, it could only erupt with such power. There was an upper limit to the power. The upper limit was the shackles of the Blade Realm. Only the swordsmanship created by oneself had the chance to break through the shackles of this node and surpass that level. However, this was still too early for him. With my current strength, there's still a long way to go to reach the attack limit of that node. Lin Feng smiled. He would probably only be able to reach that node when he fully comprehended and unleashed the 6th move. This was probably the reason why his ancestor left the obscuring heavenly blade behind. The master led the way, but the cultivation depended on the individual. With a set of swordsmanship, one could bring the swordsmanship to a new level. After all, although the obscuring heavenly blade was magical, its level was still slightly low. To his ancestor, the secret techniques that he collected were all at the level of the obscuring heavenly blade, and they were not even worth his attention. It was the same for the obscuring heavenly blade. Even if the obscuring heavenly blade was very strong to him now, to his ancestor, that was still the foundation. Then I'll just have to lay down a solid foundation. Lin Feng closed his eyes, and every move of the obscuring heavenly blade appeared in his mind. He recalled every moment of his battle with the blood-maned beast king. The black centipede in his hand seemed to roar, giving off a black glow. Hoot! Lin Feng was completely immersed in the swordsmanship. Day after day, year after year. After 100 years of silence, the small valley welcomed a group of guests. There were 7 of them. 5 of them were 8-star experts, and 2 were 9-star experts. One was black and the other was white. The man was dressed in a long black robe. He had purplish-green hair, and his eyes were as black as the abyss. He looked like a beast, but also like a human. He was the Black Dream Dragon King. The woman was dressed in a tight white armor. Her beauty carried a hint of heroism. Her oval-shaped face was delicate, and her skin was as soft as water. She looked devastatingly beautiful, but she was actually quite strong. She was the White Dream Dragon King. The other 5 8-star experts were also full of fighting spirit. Their armor reflected the logo of the Tsang Dragon Auction House. I heard that there's a black fog in the forest ahead. Even the savage beasts stay away. There must be treasures in there. The Black Dream Dragon King's eyes shone like a fierce tiger. But there are several 9-star savage beasts in that forest. It's very dangerous. The White Dream Dragon King looked worried. Don't worry. 9-star savage beasts have basic intelligence, and have territorial instincts. They'll kill their own kind. At most, we'll meet one 9-star savage beast in one area. With our strength, there's no need to worry. The Black Dream Dragon King said. The White Dream Dragon King bit her lip. Since we're here, we have to give it a try. Our Song Dragon Auction House is near the bottom of all the factions. We have to seize this opportunity. The Black Dream Dragon King's eyes shone brightly. Let's go,